will be a close matchup here, and that we can look to intro our teams today. It is going to be Prosperity taking on Lotus. We'll start things off with Lotus. It's going to be Porsche, Chad, Robbie Bob, Reptile, and Clarice from top to bottom. They were running with Chrome in the open qualifiers, but it will indeed be Reptile as per usual here for their ACL lineup. You know what? The lineup with Chrome did pretty well over the course of the OQ weekend, putting up some solid numbers, many would say. We'll see how they're going to be able to do with Reptile back in the lineup now for their run in the ACL playoffs.
Exactly. Realistically, their actual starting roster compared to the one with Chrome, but I think that the difference between each other is not going to be necessarily extremely noticeable. Like really good AD carries, both of them really strong. The main difference probably is going to be the pink, and that's probably going to be the one thing that you have to look into for Lotus now, and it's going to be how much is it going to affect Reptile trying to face some of these top 4 NA teams with a higher pink. But we already heard from him a couple of weeks ago that even with pink, he's going to destroy anyone. So we'll have to wait and see how it evolves from there.
Yeah, and now going to be looking to see how the opponents are going to be able to perform today as we take a look on Prosperity, who have also had themselves a very solid run. It's Arya, Icelandic Hero, Leica Moz, Kongji, and Inflame.
A pretty strong roster, one that we have already kind of seen here. I haven't gone back to the previous ACL. I'm pretty sure there was no real changes to the Prosperity roster compared to the one that we saw in the previous ACL. So realistically, I'm not expecting anything less than what they did already, especially because if I'm not wrong, they did lose out on that previous ACL because of some unlucky timings for some of the players. And this time around, they are looking to be one of the rosters to really try and give the surprise as much as possible, particularly on the hands of Icelandic here, which I think has been on a really good rise since the time at Ole Miss, where I think he was still not that strong. I think now he has been getting better and better with each tournament.
Yeah, really been impressive stuff from him. I'm excited to see the Leica Moz champion pool in action in particular. This guy's played 4 games at Cho'Gath so far this split, and that's that's just something you're not seeing out of the other players here. And in addition, Icelandic been flexing the on-ping Nidalee all season long. Been very, very impressive stuff from him here. And now looking over Arya, relatively new to comp, somebody we haven't gotten to see in organized competitive play too much as of late, will be an interesting feature here as well. And Inflame on the come up alongside Kongji at bot lane. All in all, an exciting lineup.
Yeah, no, it's a roster that has a lot to really show up here, and obviously they're doing good in the OQs. Certainly going to try and replicate that in the ACL. And for this matchup particularly, since it's going to be a BO3, like we were mentioning before, not a BO5, it may not really have to go really deep into the champion pool for Leica Moz just yet. But I do feel like for Prosperity's side, the champion pool is going to feel really nicely trying to face against most of their teams because they are not scared to try and pull off different champions in a lot of the situations. So it's going to be fun seeing how they perform in this high stakes, high variety scenarios that we're going to be having here in the playoffs. Also, just as a quick as well reminder, since we're in the playoffs, obviously it's going to be now upper bracket and lower bracket. Whoever ends up winning this is going to have a tough matchup against essentially Citadel, between Citadel and Calamity, and we're kind of expecting that it's Citadel, but it's going to be a really tough matchup after this as well.
Yeah, that's just how these kind of end up playing out. Is there's 4 NACL teams in this bracket. Yep. You can't avoid them for too long. But I do think that there's decent chances of these teams being able to get up there and compete. I think these guys are kind of just on the edge, right? I talked with Quacks a little bit on the latest episode of the Salt Mine. Did drop yesterday. You can go check that out in your feeds right now, but maybe wait until after the stream. But we did talk a little bit about. I think there's a clear tier 1. That are the 4 NACL teams. You know, maybe you even have some higher than others in there, right? Maybe you have Papa's Chunks a little bit lower, but those 4 are clearly at the top above everybody else. I think there's a strong separate tier 2 that has Cupid in it, and it has AMI in it, as they are showing with their run through the open qualifiers, respectively. Both those teams very, very strong and both just relegated out of the NACL last split. And then I think there's teams that are pushing to try to get themselves in there. One of those teams is
Yeah.
Gravity, who's going to be on the Salt Mine stream today. I think with a strong performance against Milk today, I would probably move them into that tier 2. And I think while I expect this matchup here on the mainstream to be very close between Lotus and Prosperity, if one of them just comes out, socks the other in the mouth, really looks dominant and knocks them out, or at least down to the lower bracket, I think they would move it very close to that territory for me as well. I think there's room for these teams to really separate and show that they belong in that tier 2 category. And I think particularly Prosperity has a chance to show that here. They had an unlucky group with Citadel and AMI, which led to them having to play in that second qualifier bracket and get ninth seed rather than a top 8 seed. But they were the highest rated of those bottom 8 seeds by a wide margin. They swept through their group with ease, qualified very, very quickly. Meanwhile, Lotus got the bottom of the pool 2 seeds. They got to 8th after losses to AMI and Gravity, respectively. So Prosperity can kind of show like, hey, we got unlucky on the group draw. We can contend with these top 8 teams and maybe push themselves into that tier 2 category with a strong showing here today.
Yeah, it really depends on how they are going to show up for some of these matchups, because obviously the difference between the after the top 8 seedings, I think, does have an impact in terms of how some of the teams are going to look. Because for as much as we think Prosperity is really good, the difference, I would say, between them and the rest and the top 8, it's going to be really noticeable now that we're entering these stages. And certainly it's going to be important seeing how much of a difference there's going to be between them and the rest. Now, like you're mentioning though, Lotus, it's going to be that first step. The fact that they are so close in seeding also can show us that maybe the real 8th seed is actually Prosperity in terms of Lotus instead of Lotus. So it's going to be fun seeing how the differentiation is going to happen between the two of them. But it's all going to depend on, like you're mentioning, how difficult this matchup is going to be for either team. If Lotus really just makes an example out of Prosperity, then you can kind of call them that maybe they were just preparing for the OQs before with Chrome, and that's why they didn't put much effort into the other matchups here in the ACL, just because they knew how it was going to happen. But like, there's a lot of arguments that you can make, and it really is going to be dependent on who shows up today and who's just going to get suckered by the other.
Definitely. So very exciting to get into this first draft here. Quick shout out to Grafuko. I hope I'm saying that right. The designated co-streamer for Prosperity. She's co-streaming our stream today. So happy to see everybody over on that stream as well, who maybe doesn't always tune in over here and are instead the Prosperity super fans. Always love to have them showing on up when we
hopefully it's a good night
Prosperity. For sure. So should be able to get started here before too long, waiting for the teams to ready up for draft. And will definitely be a competitive one. Lotus starting off on the blue side. We'll see if they look to attack that interesting mid pool from Lycamaz. Do you think? Look, I make mid lane my featured matchup almost all the time. I'm conscious of it, but that doesn't mean I'm overcoming it today, because Lycamaz and Robbie Bob are two players that I've been comparing to each other every time we talk about Lycamaz for probably the last 2 or 3 splits now. I think Lycamaz has really emerged for me from somebody who is kind of like a middling tier 3 mid laner to somebody that I think is right up there at the top and should be talked about on that short list of people who are like, maybe this guy does deserve an ACL shot at some point. And Robbie Bob has been the comparison I've been making for him lately. I do think I now have him in my head in that tier very close to Robbie Bob, of like a player who, if he's on your team, I am not discounting you from competition in the qualification tournament. And I think I do expect you to clear most of the mid laners that show up in this pool. So I think a big opportunity to prove himself here in that showdown up against Robbie today.
It really is getting to that gatekeeping territory for mid laners, where you know which ones are the ones that are on the cusp but never go higher than that, and then the ones that actually are able to go above that. So it's going to be fun seeing how Lycamaz will perform here and in the OQs as well, to really try and cement himself even higher. As with that in mind, the bans do come through already, and there's 2 already mid lane bans for both, attempting at trying to deny some of the power picks. The AD carries can't be left away either. And the Puppey, the Gwen, and the Aurora, I think a lot of variety in terms of how they are going to try and approach this. Not really attacking a specific sort of champion, but Yunara has been really pick and ban recently, and If it's open, they go for it immediately. Reptile had a great performance the last time we saw it on the Yunara. Was affected by the ping, but still can play the champion fairly well. And then as a response, there's still a couple of champions that you can go for in the bot lane. There's quite a few that can work really well, be it hyper carry or a little bit more controlled. I would like to see the Varus once again, because I think Varus attack speed is a really good choice to go against most champions. But the Corki for the safety and the damage early on, not a bad choice.
Definitely. So with that Yunara snapped on up, they are going to respond with the Corki for Kongji. Been a big priority pick for a lot of marksmen over the course of this split, but Kongji notwithstanding, like Amal is going to snap up the early Victor. It is a little bit of a denial from Robbie, who has been ignoring the Victor, or enjoying the Victor, the opposite of ignoring the Victor, over the course of this split thus far. And now we'll have to face off against a blind Victor, like locked in by Lycamaz here. So they very likely do want to keep some counter pick available for the likes of Arya. Porsche, one of the most targeted top laners in the league this split. Not getting too many targeted towards him this time around, except for perhaps the Aurora, but his Ambessa, his Gangplank, and his Gwen all been routinely feared. It does look like a Galio lock-in from Robbie Bob. Going to kind of handshake that mid lane wave a little bit.
You were mentioning the Gangplank there. I'm not really hopeful on the Gangplank, because I'm not sure if this is the place to really bring it up, but I did see a Gangplank performance on Sunday in the LTA Seoul. And let me be honest with you, I don't think that's going to be something fun to see once again, at the very least. And I'm pretty sure you're not going to be happy with whom was the one that got destroyed as a Gangplank. So I'll just keep it for myself for now, unless you want to go see the LTA South. So
was it Karshiak? I know that they.
Nope.
Oh wait, it was LTA South.
Yep,
I thought it was Opus. My bad. Oh man, was it Zamuda?
And he got destroyed by an LTA South.
Whatever, man. That guy got pulled in the 11th hour on the worst team in the league. I give him a pass on whatever.
Actually, they lost against one of the worst teams of the league.
Well, that's the format, man. What do you want him to do? All right.
Yeah,
it was a 5-game series. I know that. It's enough for me to be proud of my boy. And you know what? Zamudo famously, perhaps, I think hands down now, Zamudo, the best player to ever miss an ACL playoffs, right? Is back in.
Yeah, pretty much, actually.
Yeah, I think back in 23 fall, he was on an Aporia roster that did not make ACL playoffs in the old group stage format. Just didn't quite gel for them.
Just goes to show how competitive the ACL is, right? Just goes to show that not everyone can make it happen here.
Yeah, definitely should be looking for. Not dissuaded from this Trundle matchup, by the way, as Prosperity has been a big fan of the Trundle throughout the season. I would say that it's because Icelandic is on ping, but he's playing Nidalee the second most, so I guess not. Either way, the Trundle been a powerful pick throughout the season. A little bit nerfed, not really in the early game, a little bit more towards the late game with the Frozen Domain nerfs that came through in the last patch. Still a solid pick into the Jarvan, though, especially with your ability to disrupt some of those ganks coming through with the flag and drag. Support bans on both sides, and an Aatrox going towards Arya will be the final ban.
Yeah, a lot of focus towards the support position. Only the Aatrox really the one, not expected to go down there in the bot side. But apart from that, a lot of focus towards trying to take away from the enchanting pool plus the poking pool. You still have a couple of options here or there, but these are the main ones that you really think about. Now, for the Corki here, I'm expecting to see an engaged support, not necessarily because you cannot go for a poke, but realistically, the Rakans, the Leonas do feel a little bit better with the Corki. You still have enabled the Milio just in case you want to have that Enchanter support to buff up the Yunara, but that's about the only one that can be picked extra here. Apart from that, maybe something else that is not as picked as the Yuumi, but I'm not expecting that to come through, as the Gangplank is getting hovered. He's about to be picked, not sure, but he will be blind, so there's a lot of opportunities here for Prosperity to actually go for the counter pick. It's still a champion that has a lot of utility with the barrels, with the ultimate, with the cannon barrage, and also now with your top laner being already picked with the damage that you're going for, there's a lot of physical damage, not that much magical damage here on the side of Lotus.
Yeah, Gangplank does get to rip through armor without too much trouble, so I'm not too concerned about the damage profile, but yeah, the blind Gangplank, a bold selection into Arya. The question is, what does Arya's pool to counter out the Gangplank look like? You do love these kind of ranged champions that can contest him on his own barrels. but are those in the champion pool? And the Sona lock-in from Clarice. Big Enchanter Enjoyer in the bottom lane goes all in on Reptile's Yunara. I have heard, I mean, Quax has been a big proponent of this Singed pick
Yeah,
lately as something that is
agree.
sleeper strong. Into the gangplank. Oh my god, that's a Riven snapped up by Arya. Has gotten to play it twice this split and will be throwing it down up against Porsche's gangplank.
Wax can talk about about the Singed on the Southline podcast. Here we are seeing a Riven here, and it's an exciting matchup. Like, I haven't seen that much frequently the Riven in the top lane, but Arya has been one of the few proponents of keeping the champion alive up there in the top lane for as much as possible in the ACL. And against the Gangplank, you're going to have a lot of avenues to really make the champion work out. You have the cancellation to really deny those barrels, the ability to have more than one CC or ability that stuns, so that means that you're going to be able to go above the oranges to really evade that attempt from the Gangplank. And then the execution potential from the Riven is much higher than other top laners, because the damage can really come from out of nowhere in a lot of situations, and the split pushing is going to be really strong as well. That being said, she's not the strongest team fighter, so a lot of this game is going to depend on how Prosperity plays with the other four and enables the Riven to really try and play on the side lane as effectively as possible. I feel like that has to be the game for Prosperity here, because team fighting wise, Lotus just has a superior composition.
Absolutely. And so we do have ourselves all of the champions locked on in. Double globals for Lotus, something else to call on out here. Galio Jarvan combo, a plenty strong one up against some low mobility carries as well. I would classify the Victor as that, maybe a little bit less so the Corki. If Kongji can keep his Valkyrie about him, should be able to escape that combo without too much difficulty. And I mean, this top lane matchup is going to be the big one to keep an eye on, right? Yeah. You've got to assume that this is intended to be a more aggressive Riven game. You want to try to dominate the gangplank in the earlier laning phase before he's able to scale up and one-shot waves with his barrels, at which point he's going to be able to play a pretty uninteractive game against you if your name is Arya. I want to see some focus up towards the top side, as Icelandic has been a regular at doing. Come up here, try to set Arya up for success and make this kind of rookie to the ACL top laner pay off big time for Prosperity.
Yeah, try and be the carry point, or one of the main carry points of the team, which is not necessarily a bad strategy, but like you're mentioning, the top lane really feels like it's going to be the one that can make or break the game for each side, because it really is both two champions that if they fall behind, they really don't feel that great. If the Riven falls behind, her kit kind of falls flat a little bit, her damage output doesn't feel the same in the same way, and then she will be dependent way more on abilities to be able to do anything, and that's also something you don't want to have to consistently do as much as possible. You want to be able to use your cooldowns intelligently and try and get good trades out of that as much as possible, and also affect the side lane as much as possible, where if the Gangplank falls behind, his damage output goes down really heavily. His build is actually not that cheap either, so you don't want to have to try and get some gold onto him. And then his ultimate, he also wants to get the levels, and as long as he's kept behind, he's not going to be able to get to that point really comfortably. So it's going to be fun seeing how both youngsters are going to try and enable the top lane, and if there's going to be any sort of big action out there in the top side of the map.
Yeah, we'll be expecting to see some focus up towards the top side in this early of game number one. And we'll be expecting, I mean, it just doesn't feel like there's other lanes that are super strong to play through. Prosperity could maybe go to bot lane a little bit more, see if they can bully this Sona in the early game. Is one of the squishiest champions in the game for the first couple of levels. And so definitely somebody that you can get onto with a grand entrance. You can definitely make a lot happen. And same is definitely going to be true for the likes of Rakan and the Corki to be able to get some of that early burst damage through. We've seen Corkis take control of lanes nice and early in this series, in this tournament, and I think this is going to be no exception for Kongji.
Yeah, and it's a lot of damage that he's also being able to provide, and have a lot of damage early on to really deny into some of the later hyper carries like the Yunara. It's deceptive sometimes because you don't expect the amount of damage that he has, but he really just gets a lot of good opportunities to control the lane early on. And even then, he also can skill effectively if you're able to build him towards that. The poke damage is still really strong as well, and the safety of the Valkyrie is something to never really discount about. But also just looking a little bit into the draft and the way that it kind of shaped itself, a lot of the bans are champions that we were expecting to come through, but also that don't necessarily deny a specific role in general, because they do take away some of the enchanter supports, but you have pretty much all the pool from engaging supports still available. You have Leona, Alistar, Rel, and Nautilus, all four still available, bar the Rakan, and that can be picked in any of the consequent games. And then for AD carries, you still have a huge pool available as well. So this is going to be a pretty different game compared to what we've seen before, because it feels like really early on you see a specific lane getting attacked, and that lane ends up having to go a little bit deeper into the pools to find something to go for. But this time around, there was a lot more variety in terms of what it was banned and picked, and it opens up still a lot of the meta champions to be available for the coming games.
Yeah, absolutely here. So should be an exciting one as the rest of the series does progress. It does feel like Lotus has given up a little bit more of their champion pools relative to Prosperity. Robbie Bob losing access to the Victor, which is a champion that he's traditionally gone for. Reptile's been a Corki fan as well. Clarice has played more Rakan than anything else, and that is going to get off the board as Inflame snaps it up in game number 1. So I like what the draft looks like from their perspective. I also think top lane is wide open. This is going to be a big matchup to keep an eye on tonight, as Porsche still has his Mbessa, still has his Gwen, was banned away from the Lotus side this time around. Arya, been a much more of an Aatrox player, a Scion player, has an Mbessa of their own. The Jack's been a big pick for them too. So these guys still plenty left in the tank, and they're going to start things off with a bit of a banger in the form of the Gangplank Beef Riven matchup. And I think that's going to set the tone for tonight's series in a lot of ways. If Arya is able to get ahead early, going to demand a little bit more respect from Porsche, no more blind pick Gangplanks perhaps into Arya, and vice versa, right? If Porsche is able to find success here, I think Arya likely going to be leaning a bit more into the Scions of the Graguses of the world, might have to accept that Porsche is not the kind of guy you're going to be able to slam game in and game out.
Yeah, it really is going to be an interesting way to look at how the series progresses. And also, because it is a BO3, how quickly they can make adaptations. Because it's not like they're going to have at the very least 3 games to try and react. They are going to need to react immediately just as this game ends, because there's a lot in play here. Going down to the lower bracket, even though it's not that, it does mean that you're going to be one step closer to that, and you really want to fall for that. And especially against this sort of teams, because I feel like this is one of those, like we were mentioning before, right? This is one of the closest margins matchups you're going to have for a huge chunk of the ACL. And even when you face against tougher teams, this is probably going to be one of the matchups that you can go back to in the lower bracket that you can try and take, but it's still a 50-50 to a certain degree. So it's going to be interesting seeing how they react, how they respond, and how much of an impact is the laning phases from this sort of first matchup with a lot of wacky picks are going to impact the rest of the game. Because we talk about top lane, but then you have a Sona down there in the bot lane that I've heard people say that it's really strong, but I'm not sure how much the matchup changes because of that. Probably going to have control, but you still are playing a Yunara against a Corki. So there's a lot of little things that really could impact how this goes. Maybe not the mid lane though, because we've seen that matchup 100 times and we kind of expect what is going to happen in the mid lane. But the rest of the map is really open and can be played in a lot of different ways.
It really can here. So we will find out who is going to be able to take the early advantage in this series. We are loaded in, but we do have a bit of a pause. Although I do now hear sounds, so I think that pause is dealt with. Looking like we will be going live here in just a moment. Lotus and Prosperity both looking to come out to an early lead in the ACL playoffs. An early send down to the lower bracket would be a bit of a disappointment for both of these teams, who have had, you know, upper half of the pool performances throughout the regular season. Is, oh, we got a little bit of a smaller view of the game here. Hopefully we can get that one resolved pretty quickly, but we do have the stream live.
That's a funny size bug that for the screen of the matchup. That being said, like you're mentioning, it is the game already in, so we'll wait a little bit. We'll just fix that quickly, but the game is in. We know that they're about to start, so we'll just have to wait a little bit longer before that gets fixed. And I'm not expecting anything really weird either to start the game. There's not a lot of engage early on. You have a Yarban that is essentially a minion at level 1, so you don't want to force anything either with the side of Prosperity or the side of Lotus. And then you just kind of want to wait and play out a little bit of the early laning phase to see where the junglers want to go. Because Trundle and Jarvan are early gankers, and they really can impact the map super early on with their play.
Absolutely can. So yeah, we're resolving that little picture-in-picture issue, and then we can get started.
Yeah,
But
it's just going to be a little bit.
so does it look like we will be starting off sooner rather than later? But one more thing about the draft. I mean, I like the scaling opportunities that the Lotus draft does bring to the table. Just got to keep an eye on that Victor, right? He can really scale with the best of them, and they're able to get Lycamos into a safe position. He can be one of those really strong late game DPS picks as well. Just like the Unara, just like the Gangplank. I don't think scaling
Yeah,
at quite the level the Gangplank's going to bring, especially when you have these multiple frontliners to be able to run interference for him. But you get the right fight circumstances. I wouldn't entirely count out Prosperity either. They have some room to play with. The Corki still scales into the game as a damage threat as well. I just
yeah.
don't want to write them off in regards to the scaling potential, even though we are staring down Gangplank Unara.
Yeah, in general, the idea is that the late game should be much better for the side of Lotus because they do have the Gangplank Unara, but also things like the Galvio, things like the not necessarily the Jarvan, but things like the Sona get really strong the longer the game goes because of how their kit works. And then the Jarvan is always going to be really good in terms of the utility that he brings. Where on the other side, there are still good champions that you can play for the late game like Victor and Corki, but their power spikes are going to be much more deferred throughout the game, and it means that you have to play around them as effectively as possible, particularly the Corkis. First item, second item, I think until third item, really you feel that huge difference in terms of damage dealing output, and then after that, the Unara becomes a little bit stronger and better to really try and deal with it. There's going to be a lot of moments to try and take advantage as Prosperity, and it's going to be on Icelandic Hero to really find them and make them just go their way up the side of Prosperity as much as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Does look like we're back into pause territory before we're going to be able to get resumed in game at number one. But we are working through whatever it is that are holding up the players for the time being and should hopefully be able to get things started in a very short wait. The early game pathing, want to keep an eye on this Jarvan. Always some room for trickery if you're able to flag and drag over some of those
Yeah.
early walls, make yourself some of those invades happen. And in this kind of matchup, you could see stuff stolen away. You do got to watch out for the Trundle, who, of course, is very strong in that one-on-one if he is able to find
Yeah.
isolation. But the gank potential from the Jarvan, I think, is just a little bit stronger. So eyes on if he's able to path creatively towards the bottom lane and create a little bit of havoc.
Yeah, the Pillar of Ice overall is such a good tool as well to try and get things going as a Trundle because it's not a straight up CC, but it kind of feels like that with all the slow and the way of denying the movement from the Pillar that it provides for the Trundle. So it's going to be fun seeing how much value he does get out of that and how effective can he turn bad plays into good plays or just make the life from Chad be a living hell and not allow him to really move around the map as much as possible. Where Chad has a pretty straightforward job in my opinion. It's just go and gank one or two lanes as much as possible, try and get them as ahead as you can so that the transition from that early to mid to late game can be as easy as possible and get Unara to that point that she can just be a hyper carry pretty comfortably.
For sure. Really going to be in Reptile's hands to be that big
Yep.
late game carry this game. Big opportunity here to be able to show that even on ping, he can show up. He can have good performances here in North America. So far, had good results, I would say. Not insane results, not, blowing some of the higher seeded teams out of the water or anything, but has performed well individually. He's talked to us a little bit about how the
Yep.
ping, of course, is the biggest challenge, but the macro game does stay the same. And he's been able to navigate some of these tougher mechanical picks just fine. And the same could be said about Icelandic, right? Who's been playing from
True.
Iceland, from Iceland. I'm not even saying Iceland right because of how you say his name. We are from Iceland. Has been playing very well. I don't think he is back in the States as of yet. I do
I think
believe he's
not,
still
yeah.
playing on ping. If that's not the case, somebody in chat can let me know. But I do think that he is playing on ping as well, or at least has been for the most of the season. So it's kind of the face-off between two different players, both playing from EU ping.
Yeah, pretty much could be the defining factor for why this boss is taking so long. Maybe one of the two is just dying from the ping so much that they are waiting to try and see if they can get it fixed. But that's the issue of playing on from another region onto this one. I think we did have someone before that maybe attempted it. Not 100% sure though. But there have been players that have attempted at playing in different regions in the NA ecosystem, and some have worked, for some not that much. But the big difference is something to keep in mind, and certainly can impact the play from these two players. I would say even particularly more so AD carry after a certain point of the game, after the 15 to 25-minute mark. I would say there's more things that are going to be micromanaged by the side of the AD carry, and that means that you need to be really on point on how you move, how do you react, and what you can do in a fight.
Yeah, should be more opportunities to be able to show yourself a little bit more over the course of best of 3 series, and chances to be able to build up advantages for your side and show off what's gotten you to this point
Yeah.
in a really long regular season. Still, even though we condensed it all to 4 weeks, still feels like so long ago that the game did get kicked off, and there really are a lot of stakes here for these teams as they start to look towards, OQs have already filled, but coming into the offseason, coming into ACL fall, you really do want to put up a good showing and see if you can get yourself on to the best roster possible.
Yeah, the better chances you get into a better roster, the more than likely you're going to have chances to qualify into the OQs or into the NACL more effectively. So certainly trying to get your ranking, your point of interest as high as possible, it's still going to be really good for them, and something that we need to see from some of these players. Maybe not so much Reptile, but the other 10, the other 9 probably looking to try and get that going.
Yeah, so we are having difficulty fixing the game size, so we are just going to stream like this for a little bit while we get started. We will work on fixing it live. Inflame going to be able to jump over the wall. Reptile going to get focused down, taking a ton of damage here, and he's going to try to escape. The Ignite comes in just as the heal does. Clarit's still holding on to Summoner heal, waiting for the Ignite to expire. Can pop it to keep him alive up against Inflame's auto attacks, and Clarit's will flash over the wall to be able to keep safe as well.
Yeah, that being said, it's 4 summoners down now for Lotus to start it off. It's going to be a difficult laning phase now, even more so than it was going to be a little bit before. And it does mean that here, Atlantic here has to look for this bot lane. This is the place where you need to try and get going your Corki. Now that there's 4 summoners down in your bot lane, you want to put ahead this Corki as much as possible.
Yeah. Now, we get the laning phase started. Will be some early clears starting off with the red buff for both sides. See if that path towards bot for Icelandic can set up Kongji and Inflame to be able to punish these missing summoners from Reptile and Clarit's. Already going to look to get onto it early here as the knockup is found onto Clarit's, and a great trade from Kongji and Inflame will take him to about half. Reptile going to be able to respond in turn, but the health bars do favor Prosperity.
Yeah, the knockups missing there means that there's good follow-up potential there by Reptile, and he does just that as the ward is getting cleared. It's immediate re-engage, but guess who's bot lane? And they are pushing a little bit too far forward. Not sure if they actually saw the Jarvan though.
Yeah, Robbie Bob getting chunked to about half by Leica Moz. The early range advantage paying off for the victor as Arya looking for these trades up against Porsche, but Porsche finding a lot better of it. He gets another proc of the Grasp of the Undying, gets a passive proc, and keeps Arya low on health. Like Amaz continuing to find those trades in mid as well. The solo lane starting to pull ahead for Prosperity here, and the bot lane in similar territory. But nonetheless, Chad going to look for this invade onto the blue buff. Will Icelandic be able to spot him?
Yeah, it's really only on the bot lane to really react to anything that is happening down there in the bot side jungle, but it doesn't look like Icelandic is going to react to this accordingly. It's going to be Chad more than likely getting this blue buff, and in the process, also going to be able to escape here unless... Oh,
Chad going to get pushed back away by the pillar. Icelandic over the wall trying to chase down on towards Chad. Chad very well going to get first blooded for it. Immediately regrets his decision as Icelandic finds him and makes him pay.
Yeah, he really wanted the blue buff, but that meant that immediately they're going to be put into an awful spot as the minions are getting pulled here, and more than likely going to be a kill onto Reptile. Yep.
Yeah, Reptile going to end up falling on down, and Clarit's going to join him, and just like that, it is a 3-0 score line for Prosperity. What a fantastic start to this early game, playing through bottom. Both the kills going to Inflame, probably not ideal, but getting Reptile and Clarit's off the map, paying off for that level 1 trade, that will be enough either way.
Yeah, having no summoners down there on the bot side really is going to impact Lotus at this point. Only the barrier is going to be coming back up for now, but the rest of the things are going to be unavailable for the foreseeable future. And really good gang, but surprised of the way that Lotus kind of played that off, because they knew that Chad had died. They knew that there was open space for the jungler to come down here to the bot side, and he just takes full advantage of that, takes advantage of the champions that are way too far forward, and they get a pretty comfortable kill.
Yeah. Arya and Porsche continuing to favor Porsche over the course of this early game. That is the shining light for Lotus so far in this early stage, as the rest of the map has gone over the way of Prosperity. Robbie Bob's doing just fine as well. Continuing to keep
Yeah,
this
he's
wave shoved
fine.
in.
He's
Well,
farming. That's what matters really with the Galio. As long as you farm, everything should be alright. The biggest problem is obviously going to be the rest of the lanes, although Porsche is also ahead. Like just yes, but he's still ahead.
definitely Reptile and Clarice keeping the pressure on in the bottom lane. They are trying to push forward, but got to keep in mind the gold advantage from the double assists was split two ways, so Kongji not too far ahead for it, but the 2 kills on the Inflame and the XP will make a difference as well as they continue to find these shots onto Reptile. Another grand entrance connects, and Reptile is not long for this world. Barry will keep him up for a little bit longer, but Inflame claims his 3rd kill. This guy is full carry mode, and Clarice will be pushed back. Ether Wisp early on for the AP, given Inflame the damage to keep those kills coming.
Inflame is just taking full on advantage of the fact that they are being a little bit too aggressive on the side of Lotus. They are trying to get the farm going for the Inara, obviously, and stop the dive from happening. But it feels like at this point of the game, with the way that it is going, you want to try and just stabilize your AD carry and try and put him in a spot where he can carry later on. 3 daggers are going to be nice, but it's also tier also completed for the Ezreal, so he's going to be able to spam more.
Really good stuff from the likes of the Prosperity bottom lane to be able to put themselves in this much of a lead. Again, the fact that all the kills are going to Inflame, probably not what you're hoping for, but they have been still setting Reptile behind, even if all of the winnings are not going into this Corki. If they can keep the kills flowing, it won't matter who they've been going on towards. Still, the CS from Reptile has been just fine. Hasn't been taken completely out of the game for it. There is going to be the Cannon Barrage thrown on down. Chad already here. Arya looking for the solo kill. Can't find it. And Clarice arrives as the cavalry to bail out this top lane. And the supports are getting all the kills today, baby. Chad spites away the Siege minion. Clarice takes the kill. And Porsche just wishes that he could get something for himself.
Yeah, if I didn't knew better, that is a potential for just going AFK after that. But they do get the kill. They are able to control Arya really effectively, plus blowing away the flash from her, and also stealing away the red buff on the side of the Jarvan. It's going to get answered, obviously, by the Trundle on the other side of the map. But it's a 1-for-1, really good control, getting that top lane kill as well, really, really important. And there may be a little bit more focus down here now with that pop.
Oh, another engage from Inflame connects. Reptile getting focused again. One more auto from Kongji would do it. But they are not willing to send it. They do not want to blow the flash and give up that shutdown, especially because Icelandic is en route, hits the pillar, slows down Reptile, takes him out once again, and he might give a 2nd kill over to Clarice. 5 kills to the supports in this early game. But the kill comes through nonetheless, and that makes this a victory for Prosperities. That's more time that Reptile isn't farming, more time that Kongji has the lane to himself.
Yeah, this is already setting up for a potential support carry performance. It's really nice stun there, but it's already coming with a GP and with the Jarvan. There's no flash here. Arya's dead. Yep.
Finally, somebody in the lane picks up a kill. It's going to be Porsche as Arya gets sectioned off and focused down. Chad making his presence known, able to pull his top lane into even further of a lead after Clarice picked up that 1st kill earlier on. And I said it before, I'll say it again. Porsche seems to have the Lotus lineup in his hands this game, as Reptile has been focused over and over and over again.
Yeah, he's been the victim of the consistent attack coming in from the side of Prosperity, and I think it's a smart plan. Try and attack one of the better options that there is on the other side of the map, and that way you deny them as much value as possible. Gangplank could have been that, but I think doing so to the Yunara and the Zone as well, double enchanting champions. Ooh. Kongji.
Oh, Going for some more. Inflame gets another
That's fine.
knockup. He just doesn't miss these, but the damage
Ooh.
is coming back on a Kongji too fast. He will fall down. And Inflame going to be the next focus. Legamaw's coming in on the side, going to be able to connect a laser off to the side, and will slow them up with the gravity field. A flash in from Icelandic will be able to finish off Reptile as the first target. Claritz is up next, trades back onto Inflame, but Inflame cannot escape. It'll be a support for support. Legamaw is walking away with that kill credit.
Yeah, at the very least, they get something back on the side of, or well, better said, they get something really good on the side of Prosperity, because like Amos does get the kill. It's no longer only going to the Rakan, to the support, and that means that you can have a little bit more margin of gold in general. I'm pretty sure this was the first time that the picture did come through and try and help around, so that means that now he's a step closer to his full on upgrade as a robot. The first one obviously going to be important to just have the wave clear, and the rest are really good extra value.
Really good stuff here in the early stages. Chad coming in on the extra gank into Arya. He needs to be able to survive, or at least try to find a way to clear out this wave. But the damage is coming through so fast. It's a flash out from Chad, and Porsche will finish him with the cannon barrage. Porsche gets his second, and Arya goes down for the third time as the bot lane rotates up to mid for both teams. Cloud Drake going the way of Icelandic.
Yeah, it's just much better control at this point. I think it is one of the latest Drakes we've had so far, though, because I'm not sure who got the first Drake, but it feels like that was the first one, and it took really long before they finally were able to get it. Oh.
Icelandic stepping up, looking on towards Claritz, taken to about half, but Kongji is up too far, and Reptile gonna get the response kill again. Two of them going the way of Reptile, is now Icelandic getting focused down, chased down, and focused by Robbie. Claritz will be the one to clean up that kill.
Yeah, getting some of the better traits at the end there. That still being said, they're still a good value on the side of Prosperity to really try and turn around the situation. They cannot throw themselves into a spot where they cannot fight. And we talk so much about that 4v5 or that 1-4 that the side of Prosperity does have, because they have the ribbon up there in the top side. You have to be extra wary about how you want to force fights, because without the ribbon, there's always a chance that an objective is going to be more valuable than just a fight.
And yeah, really good stuff to be able to claim these objectives wherever possible. We are still working on game size, by the way. Everybody tuned on in. We'll hopefully be able to get that resolved here. Hopefully in game number 1, if not for game number 2. Porsche pushing Arya back up on the top side. Oh, that's something. We're working with resolution here, but still can't get quite the right one.
Going down just a little bit, but it's moving around more now. Maybe we can get actually for it to be put crazy on the screen perfectly. That's such a random bug, by the way.
It's like, such a weird bug to be dealing with. I'm not sure if it's OBS or if it's League, although I know where I'd put my money. Here comes Inflame on the side. There's going to be quickness popped. Chad getting focused down first. It's a 3 versus 2 with Chad stuck inside of his own Cataclysm. Arya going to be able to pick up his first of the game thanks to that effort. And there we go. That's the full-size game, baby. Now we just need to get the overlay underneath.
We just needed to hold the fort a little bit longer, and there. It's perfectly fine, like everything should be. No turrets sticking up here, and really good dissuade of the gang. And they also still have tools to try and make their gangs happen. So hopefully they are able to push a little bit more in the top side, take advantage of the champion on the side of Prosperity dying, and be able to just push even more there.
Now with that, you can see a little bit more of the scoreboard. Going to be 1 dragon taken by Prosperity. We remember this. Still good to keep track of regardless. Now going to be 2 minutes to go into the Rift Herald. So much gold on these supports. Not changing too much about the game, but it does mean that they're both on legendary items before a lot of the cast is. See how they're going to be able to flex that in these upcoming fights. Lycamaw's hovering the top side. Will get harassed by Claritz, but Claritz will not commit the ultimate. Did not have the damage for the kill with Galio.
It is a Galio. Kind of difficult to really try and threaten anyone with a Galio by himself. And also the Sona as Arya. Yeah, this may not be the most ideal, though they do have a lot of mobility. So pushing away the ribbon in that spot, I'm pretty sure they did get what is called the proxy going, so trying to push it up a little bit more there. But the game kind of quieting down now after all that happened earlier on. And funnily enough, because of some of the interactions and also because Reptile was able to get some of those skills back into his pocket, that initial bot lane play felt like it never happened.
And Reptile looking to chase onto Inflame here and has done so much to pull himself back to the game, like you were bringing
Yeah.
up there. Those couple of kills on a Kongji mean that does feel like that early bot gain deficit has kind of been wiped off. Got a couple of kills, kept up in CS the whole time through anyway, never really got denied too much CS. And the lead that Porsche has over Arya is significantly more than the lead that Kongji has over Reptile now.
And this really goes to show how important it was those top ganks to really enable Porsche to head an easier time in the top lane. Because if it just goes natural, you see Arya being able to get the some traits going in their favor, also just play around this remove Scurvy much easily. It makes it so that you now have a Porsche that can deal with this 1-for-1 effectively. Oh, not again.
Another attempted dive on towards Arya. The slow does connect. The turret will fall, and Claritz is here on the cutoff. Connects crescendo, and Arya at less than 100 HP trying to create the distance, and Claritz will flash to finish it. A 5th kill to Claritz.
And that was a kill that Porsche could have gotten with the ultimate, but not taking any chances, getting the kill at the end there, and really important for the side of Lotus that they are dominating in this sort of manner as, oh, Reptile.
Big engage from Inflame, though. They catch Reptile sleeping, and they give another to Icelandic. Going blow for blow are these teams in this game number 1. And Prosperity trying to keep up the push, getting it to about half HP, but Robbie Bob's TP will force them away. Moving towards Dragon number 2, but Porsche about to get a big chunk of gold in the form of the inner turret. A massive lead to Porsche.
Yeah, Porsche is just feeling so strong at this point, with having not only one of the strongest champions of the game whenever reached later stages of the game, but also the fact that you're denying from the Riven so much. It's 140 something CS to just the 105 that the Riven has right now. It's going to be really difficult to try and go over that difference. And importantly, it's going to be important for you to come in a way that you can try and set it up for your team, right? And with the way that already the Gangplank has 2 items, like you're kind of set up for being able to succeed with the champion, especially if you get first moving to objectives. They are going to be walking into barrels.
Rift Herald popped up, taken down mid lane turret, now charging all the way to bottom. Lycamaw's channeling a recall in the bush, will be able to get himself out of there. And now there's way more members of Lotus than there are of Prosperity working to defend this tower. Claritz and Chad moving up forward into the river. Prosperity will be able to clear away the rest of the wave. They do not lose this tower. Lycamaw's recall shows back up. The turret is still there waiting for him. They are able to withstand that second Rift Herald charge.
Yeah, they're not still losing it yet down there on the bot side, but it is something that you have to begin worrying about, especially if you want to try and protect for a turret like that. Because realistically, GB can try and go against anyone and try and force the turret, that way opening up the map a little bit more. But there's objectives of objectives. You have to be wary about what you want to try and protect, and I don't think the bot lane turret is going to be that big of a difference to keep it alive in comparison to maybe something like an inner tier 2 or something like that.
Yeah. And with that, we'll see a faint lead continuing to be built up by Lotus. You can't see the gold counts underneath, but I'm going to take a wild guess here based on the turrets that have fallen that Lotus has been able to build themselves up an advantage of a couple K. Prosperity going to need to be able to play around the power spikes they've got on this Trundle and on this Corki, but I mean, there's been a lot of gold given on over to Reptile and a lot more given over to Porsche to allow them to hang on. They can try to get this shutdown here, though. Collapse in from Icelandic. Porsche going to flash out to safety. Claritz comes in with the crescendo to buy a little bit of additional space, and I think that's going to be just enough.
Yeah, able to escape there, and Claritz really has been clutch with this Sona for a champion that is not necessarily known for her gank timing, or being able to control a lot of members. Coming back, Claritz.
Coming back in, but really just taking a bunch of damage from Lycamaw's for their efforts. Still, without ultimate, Lycamaw's cannot threaten a kill onto either of these folks. Icelandic is in the area trying to clear out waves. or rather wards, but not going to be able to support on that effort either. Neither of them have the lockdown that they would need.
Yeah, it's a little bit too difficult at this point. Just try and play it off of what you're able to accomplish and what to move around. And also we have a dragon in 2 minutes, so there's something that you kind of want to leave important stuff up for before it does fall into a fight. As Kongji, great flash there.
Forward, Kongji locked down, already used the flash, nowhere left to go. Quickness will not bail him out. Focus towards Porsche on the opposite side to try to make this a trade, and Porsche cannot fight his way out, but Inflame trying to bail out his teammate cannot save him. Forced to use the blast cone to jump back over the wall. And Kongji will be the only one to fall for Prosperity, thanks to some fancy footwork from Inflame.
Yeah, moving him around here and there, but still able to find quite a good amount of value in that position. As third from the bot lane, more than likely going to be falling down for the side of Lotus, where Prosperity is still able to keep their turrets alive and protecting them as much as they can to try and set up the team for success with this.
Yeah, Slandic coming in, going to try to find the slow with the pillar, but wasn't quite positioned in a way to stop Claritz. He just auras his way right through it.
He just thought it walked. Well, actually, Aura levitate, because I'm pretty sure Sona doesn't walk.
True. But either way, the bonus movement speed given to her by, I think it's Aura of Celerity or something. I'm just pulling words out of nowhere. I think it's something like that. We'll use that to be able to zoom away with the rest of the team, get some passive stacks there while they're at it. Echoes of Helia doing a lot of work this game as well to be able to let the harassment continue to come through and buff up in the form of shielding. But over the wall, they find Reptile again. Big chunk out of that queue, but able to flash out to safety, and the rest of the follow-up just isn't there. Icelandic finally able to come out through with the taunt from Robbie Bob, making big work. Still able to finish off one kill, and Icelandic not going to slow down there. Tons of damage from this Fed Trundle, but not enough to finish off Claritz. And now Robbie Bob, he's got an angle on the Lycomos. He wants to keep the fight going. Stun, though, onto Claritz, just walks into the gravity well and gives it up for free. Lycomos will clean up that one. Now going to see if he can keep this duel going with Robbie Bob. Chad looking to make the collapse happen. Porsche TP'd into the river as well. He's got a collapse angle coming on through before too long. What can Arya do with the extra time? Stun connects onto Robbie. Lycomos still kiting this out, still landing the damage. Porsche throws down the ultimate. Lycomos has to turn tail and head the other way, winning out the auto wars on the barrel. Still trying to kite it on out. Throws out another stun field. Can he get another kill? He cannot. The three members of Lotus will finally manage to pin down this victor.
That was so long that both members from the ones that died previously were able to respawn, and now they are looking for this next dragon. Even Reptile is able to come back here and fight it out with one more item. But the way the game is going, for all that Lotus took to try and take down Lycomos, it's not really a big problem, because now they still have more gold, they still have more value, they also still will have control over the area, and with the dragon in play, they can try and go for it. There's also the consideration.
Will have TP at about the same time that he respawns. Robbie still coming in from the top side, doesn't have his ultimate to be able to join up this fight. So this is a little bit of a slow start for Lotus. Lycomos back, has TP. Will he expend it? Is he going to show up to this fight? Can he get into that bottom wave? Is there any option? Here he comes inside the jungle. Prosperity are looking for a fight. The dragon is going to be smited down, but what about the follow-up afterwards? Chad looking to advance into the jungle, going to throw down the Cataclysm on top of Kongji, but is he up too far? Robbie can't follow up. There's the kill onto Chad. They get the first shutdown. Now Reptile stepping up forward, going to be able to connect on towards Kongji, thanks to that crescendo. 2 kills already, but Arya in the back line, taken down. Exile's blade is not enough. And 3 kills to 1 in favor of Lotus. They take the dragon and win the fight on the backside.
Yeah, but what is up with Claritz taking all the kills? 6, 3, and 7. The Sona support is just running around menacingly looking at everyone and taking the kills like she is the best. But it's working out. Really good team fights, really good control, and able to manage out some of the spaces so that even though Reptile gets engaged on, has tools to try and play around with it with the rest of the team. Really good team fight and a lot of value they are getting here.
Icelandic is waiting around on the side. He wants to get in there. He wants to challenge, but without the numbers, he just can't do it. And I fear for Prosperity if they continue to try to take these battles. Looking for the smite, can't find it, goes over to Reptile. And now what about the follow-up fight? Chad is about to be back here. They're getting a little bit of harassment down on Robbie Bob, but he's still pretty tanky with that Hollowed Radiance. Threatening with the taunt. They do manage to space it out, stunned up by the Gravity Well. Porsche on the other side. And Arya has rejoined the fight off the back of the teleport. They've got Porsche isolated away. They need to try to get something.
Oh, no,
but Icelandic is launched back into the team, and Robbie Bob will be the one to put him in the dirt.
Yeah, they just see him jumping over the wall straight to his zoom, and for all of that lasted, it wasn't anything that Prosperity could play around with, because at the end they find multiple picks from before and from now as well, and the game is getting slowly but surely out of control for the side of Prosperity.
Oh, Lotus committing Chaos Storm.
That's a lot.
Doesn't work out.
Interesting choice, and maybe he gets collapsed on now. Look at where Chad is.
Oh, there's going to be the flash cataclysm. Arya is here, but Arya just kind of has to watch and say, see you later, brother. I can't help you here. Out of there is Arya, and Lycamon is down for 42 seconds. From being the quietest lane to being the best hope for Prosperity, it feels. As Reptile rolls up with the 666 score line, he is plenty powerful, as is the rest of Lotus. They have shown up to play in the back half of this game, and they are in full control.
Yeah, they have everything in their value. They want to utilize the Yunara as much as possible here now that she is really strong with the 3 items. And also, that is really far ahead to her counterpart. Quirky, only 2 items completed, not really able to maximize the poke damage here. And it looks like they want to try and fight.
Icelandic with a call out onto Chad because he comes in with the flag and drag is slowed up instantly, but the damage isn't there. Robbie Bob, heroic entrance shuts down the play, but Arya found a solo kill on a Reptile on the other side. That might be a little bit of a saving grace on this push for Prosperity, as he's able to come out and support it. Now they have no marksman.
Yeah, they have no way to carry here, but they can look for the Baron buff. They have a lot of healing. They have healing and they have a GP. I'm not sure if it's going to be expected, but it's a good opportunity to try and... So now there is... But there's no jungler. Icelandic is dead. Yeah, they can rush it.
It's going to be up to Kongji and Lycamon to just show up here with the damage. Going to throw down Chaos Storm immediately. Lycamon looking to add to the damage, looking to time the laser perfectly to outsmite Chad. It's just not possible. They auto it to 1180 for Chad to land an easy smite. And Baron buff worn by, I think, 4 members of Lotus. I don't think Reptile spawned in time.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he was able to, but there, I like the idea from Lycamon throwing the ultimate out so that you can get the vision on the pit since you don't have wards to try and get the laser beam to kill it. Not enough damage though, but it's still a really nice attempt at that position, and really the only real hope that Prosperity seems to have at this point in the game. Maybe they can turn it around later on with some of the members trying to scale a little bit more, but it really feels like it's only on Lycamon.
Lycamon doing his best here. 3 items in. But a lot of deceptive amount of tankiness in this build as well. Going for the bloodletters will be a lot beefier than you may expect a Victor to be while still outputting damage. I do think could use one last oomph of damage though. Will likely go for a Rabadon's 4th or 5th, depending on whether or not you've started counting boots. I do think
goes more for a rod not a rod. I forgot the name. A Void Staff, just because trying to have the penetration against the Galio, because it is one of the targets that he's hitting more. But he needs something extra.
Either way, it's going to be straight damage. It's going to be something that's there to help them puncture through. Actually, it does look like they're looking for the oh man, I can't think of item names right now as a fight's about to break out. There's going to be plenty of damage coming through onto this turret. It will fall down, and Chad looking for the engage at the same moment. Kongji forced to jump back.
Not as scared.
He has to flash out to safety. Triple knockup found by Inflame, but triple snugs found by Robbie Bob on the opposite side. Will try to return on fire. There's a heroic entrance to knock back up Icelandic. It is a 2-for-1 trade with a double kill going the way of Reptile, and Prosperity do not look like they're going to be able to stand any longer. Like Amaz trying to find the damage alongside Kong.
One
They will
down.
be able to finish off Clarice. A flash taunt being attempted, locking down like Moz. It Porsche blows him up with a barrel. Low health bar for Reptile, but no access to him for Kongshi. Inflame torn down as well. And finally, the turret is the only thing standing between Lotus and the Nexus, and it'll fall the same as the entire team. Lotus, in a back and forth 28-minute game, will take game number 1.
Pre-30-minute game, a real good one. I think both teams had a lot going for them in how the game went. Prosperity weren't able to prosper at certain points of the match, but I think overall the idea that they wanted to play with was good. The main problem, and I think it really turned around a lot of the balances this game, was when they gave up those 2 kills to Reptile in the mid lane. Because Reptile was really far behind. Like, he was losing lane because of what happened early level 1. He got killed then in the lane as well down there in the bot side. And then after that, he was trying to recover as much as possible. But getting those 2 kills back, trying to recover the AD carry as much as possible after that with the farm that he was getting funneled. And then Porsche getting a lot of value off of all the ganking that happened topside meant that Prosperity was going to have no real tools to really try and go around against the side of Lotus, where Lotus recovered and made better use of those tools to really try and push the issue in the game.
Yeah, definitely here. And with that said, it is going to be a firm lead to Lotus after a strong performance in game number 1, but Prosperity showed in that early game that they have what it takes to tussle. I know it was hard to see. It's a little bit of a mess in that early stages there. Apologies for that. We will get things cleared up as best as we can for game number 2. Production trying their best with a tough lot of items thrown at them here. But with that said, we're going to throw it to a quick break here. We're going to try to take some time to get everything sorted out, and we will be back for game number 2. Do want to give a quick shout out though to Zen Market, your one-stop solution for buying products directly from Japan. They'll help you buy items from over 10,000 shops, as well as place bids on auctions on your behalf. They'll even consolidate all your items safely into one box and can ship internationally. They provide excellent customer service in 19 languages, which is why Zen Market is trusted by over 2 million users worldwide. Check out the panel below the stream or click the link in chat to try them out now. If you sign up with promo code Aegis, you will get 1,000 yen off your first international shipping fee. In addition, check out the special viewer giveaway by typing !giveaway in the chat for your chance to win a Nintendo 64. Thank you once again to Zen Market for supporting Aegis and the ACL. We will see you guys after a short break with game 2 between Lotus and Prosperity.
日本限定あ全マーケットを使おうっと
今日は老舗をしっかり見て回らなくちゃね。
いやいや、ここはジャンル順でしょ。
名前順の方がいいんだよ。
現代か洋代の名前順？
あ？
ローマ字それともひらがな？僕は色で並べるのが好きなんだけどね。全部に対応させよっか。
おお。
80年代のホラーゲーをください。これでみんな幸せ。
ありがとう全マーケット
All
Welcome back, everybody, to tonight's broadcast of the ACL, where we are getting into game number 2 of Lotus versus Prosperity. Thank you for sticking with us. The technical issues in game number 1, we believe everything has been resolved. And now we have to see if Prosperity can resolve their difficulties from game number 1, as Lotus were able to pull their way back in, keep Reptile relevant, and come up with the win.
Yeah, and I think that was the most important part of that game, right? Because they were doing a really smart thing, which was make Porsche be valuable, but by attacking area as much as possible. But the plan wouldn't have worked out if Reptile just came back out of nowhere, right? And if not for giving up the advantage that they already had on Kangxi, then probably they could have had a more competitive game for the whole duration of it, until maybe 30 minutes when Reptile could have come back naturally. But they accelerated that process and it made it more difficult for Prosperity. So I think that in reality, going into the next game, the only thing that I would argue the side of Prosperity needs to do, maybe have a more stable top lane matchup. Arya went for something crazy, I like it, but it is a matchup that is really volatile. And the problem with those matchups is that whoever is on the losing end of the volatile matchup is going to suffer miserably for the whole duration of the game. Where if you go for something more consistent, can be a little bit easier to play.
And that's what we were somewhat worried about, right? We talked about this a little bit coming into the game number 1. What is the top lane outcome going to look like, and how is that going to affect you know, the feelings for game number 2 as far as what champions we're willing to play, what kind of matchups we're willing to take? We do need to update Lotus to 1 up there, because Lotus do have the lead as they take to red side for game number 2. And we wait to see what that matchup is going to look like in the top lane. I think, if anything, this is a sign for Arya. Maybe you're on Scion duty the rest of this one, but that's an early snap up of the Aurora, and I'm not going to lie.
Maybe it's Aurora duty now.
It could be top, but I do think Lycamaz has been the Aurora player on this team. When Prosperity have gotten Aurora this season, they have given it to Lycamaz.
And realistically, in the previous game, it was really on the back of Lycamaz. He did die a couple of times, but in reality, it was whatever damage he had, whatever he was able to do in team fights, that was propping Prosperity up a little bit. So if I'm going to trust someone tonight, I think Lycamaz is a good bet. Now, looking on the other side, there's a couple of mid-lane bans plus the ones that came through before. So Rise looking like the option that can be really effective. Importantly, can be flexed to the top lane as well. Not sure how burst Porsche is on the Rise top lane anymore, but it's still a flex potential pick that you can send up there. Expecting it to be seen in the mid lane though. Robbie Bob is a great rest player, and I'm not surprised if it ends up going there. As far as now picks that you can go for, I think Jungle, Pantheon, I was thinking of this. Pantheon, the trifecta, is still alive, can go for it.
Yeah, I mean, it could be the Rise and Aurora matchup strikes me as a little bit difficult. Just you're really short range, and the early burst damage from Aurora is very high. But we will see how.
Maybe the point and click value, right? To try and not allow her to escape.
I mean, it is also. I mean, Aurora is just, I think, one of the strongest picks right now in the meta. Still incredibly high burst damage, really high team fight value, and we saw from Lycamaz on the Victor in game number 1. I think he is living up to the hype so far in this series. Probably the best performing player on Prosperity last game. Him and Icelandic standing out as real highlights for a team that did end up letting the lead slip away and ending up with a loss. We'll see if they're going to be able to pull that back and take this series to 3 games as Icelandic snaps up the Wukong. Already a dangerous team fight composition brewing for Prosperity. You got to keep in mind, double globals already for Lotus with the Rise and the Pantheon. We saw how well they were able to use the globals in the Cannon Barrage and the Hero's Entrance last game. Prosperity are going to need to make sure they have answers for that.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be important seeing how much they can try and lock down with their movements around the map to really not allow these globals to get out of control, as the Barriers is the last pick for Prosperity this time around. Went a little bit unnoticed last game, but not surprised the champion comes through here as the Jhin getting covered, and another semi-long range ultimate to really pair up with the Pantheon and the Rise. Not necessarily a bad choice, but it does mean that more than likely we have to get a top lane from Lotus that it's going to be damage dealer. Because you cannot depend on the Jhin and the Rise to be the straight up damage dealers of this composition. Jhin is much more burst oriented. Rise is a little bit burst oriented as well, but it's going to be much more utility based with the CC and the damage over time that you're going to be able to deal with. So a lot of damage probably will come down to Porch, and that's why I think we're going to see a lot of bans coming in the second phase towards that top lane up there.
For sure. The Jin snapped on up there for Reptile, going to be taking a little bit more of a back seat than he did on the Yunara. Kongji with the Varus. I do think this champion is a bit better on hit now than it used to be by virtue of that lethality build getting nerfed down. So I wonder if this is going to be a more traditional DPS Varus trying to pull through in the late game for Prosperity. Support bans on both sides. Nautilus taken off the board. Karma taken off the board. Claritz's Enchanters must be respected. But the thing is, I don't think you really want to go like a Lulu or anything like that alongside your Jin. So maybe breathing a bit of a sigh of relief.
So there's no, certainly you don't go Lulu here, but there's an angle where you can certainly go for something like the Seraphine. Has great setup for the Jin. You have the Anchor as well, which is a huge ultimate.
The Bard.
And it's a really good value there. The Bard as well could have been a great choice. So banning away some champions that it certainly could have paired up nicely with the Jin. But like you're mentioning, probably we're going to see an engaged support. The Nico has nice poke, has nice engage, has nice setup, and it's something that also went by really effectively in the previous game, surprisingly enough. Now last pick is going to go towards Porch, not surprising there, and we have to see if Varia wants to take a little bit of the backstep here.
For sure. An option for Aurora to go up to that top lane still, but very likely going to be in mid. And I would not hate to see just a Scion here from Arya. I think it's a really good angle to just play frontline, neutralize whatever matchup you're up against, or be able to farm up against it, rely on the team fighting power that Prosperity have drafted across the rest of the board. You can go for the Renekton, but it's a little bit riskier. They will snap it up, and it's up to Porsche now for what counter he feels is most powerful.
So it is risky, but it's something that I feel like more times than less feels a little bit more consistent in what you know that he can provide for the team. Now, the Scion here, I would be surprised if they go for Scion, not because it's necessarily a bad pick, but because I do feel like getting a little bit more damage could be quite nice for the side of Lotus. That being said, a huge frontliner against something like the Wukong, the Aurora, and the Renekton to block some of the ultimate potential is going to be nice. The Paris, though, is going to shred the Scion in the on-hit build. If he goes lethality, probably Scion destroys him. But if it's the on-hit build, the Scion can be dealt with quite easily by the Varus.
Yeah, so big question mark here as to how they will be able to navigate the matchup in regards to this Varus, right? Is it going to be that lethality build that has been kind of the bigger staple in competitive play, or is it going to be that on-hit build that Riot's trying to push people more towards with more recent balance changes? And that has always been an accessible option. You're up against a relatively short-range comp, it feels like, with the Pantheon Rise Scion. I think this is an angle where you can go that kind of on-hit build if you're Kongji.
Yeah, they are going to come into you anyway, so you can certainly play around that. I have seen, though, that more players still prefer the lethality build, so it could still be an option because bar the Scion, every other champion is really killable with the Varus poke build, so you can try and play from a safe distance with that. And then you can try and maybe, if you kill the remaining members, just kill the Scion eventually. But I really think the on-hill build is just not as respected and probably stronger in some scenarios to really try and play it out and try and see if they can pull it off effectively here. But for the side of Lotus, after winning the game previously really effectively, they are opting maybe putting Reptile in a little bit more of a backseat champion, the Jin, going to have more lane priority, but not necessarily the same level of prowess towards the later stages of the game, going to be more utility based, so going to play more off of what Robbie and Chad want to accomplish, and that way maybe just enable the team in a much better manner.
Definitely. And another big Nico angle here for Claritz. We got to see Claritz play some Nico over the weekend, and it was massive for the Lotus organization and the Lotus team when they were able to get it. We've seen some big Nico games on this stream throughout the entire season. It's one of the biggest playmaking supports available right now, and it can be a huge difference maker, especially when your composition needs to get a little bit closer to be effective with the likes of the Rise. Being able to come in on a big flanking angle on the Nico, hold folks like the Aurora and the Varus down would be massive. But I like this draft all around for Prosperity. I am very, very respectful of Lycamoz's Aurora. This is a champion that he likes in the mid lane. I think he's got himself a fine matchup into Robbie Bob's Rise. And I do think Prosperity have given themselves a little bit of side lane strength with that Renekton. I think that is the one argument, or the best argument, for the Renekton over the Scion in this position is that the Renekton will do a better job of being able to hold its own in the side lane up against the Ryze if we do get into a late game scenario where we see some side laning that requires a little bit of brawling, a little bit of fighting for the wave.
And the point and click is always really good to have, because the Renekton is also going against a Jhin and Nico, or a Jhin and a Ryze. Not really huge mobility based champions, so if he can get onto the back line, it's really effective for him to just press W and lock them down before they can do anything meaningful in the fight. So there's a lot of things that the Renekton can do. Even if he's behind, he can still be just a point and click CC champion and try and help the team through that ability. But I would say this time around, Prosperity with a easier to execute composition, I would argue a much more straightforward way of playing, just team fighting it out, trying to get their ultimates down so that you can kill the champions much quicker, and that way just enable the fight to go your way quicker.
Yeah. We have finalized the draft. It wasn't a big surprise where any of these champions are heading, but here are the lineups for game number 2, Prosperity x APM. Probably the best of the rest, I would argue, for these bottom 8 seeds in the playoffs. Got so close to being a top 8 seed, but their matchups were tough, being in a group with Citadel and Apex Mission Impossible to start off this tournament. And from Pool 4, they still managed to fight their way up to a 3rd seed. And from there, fighting their way through to get themselves the highest seed possible from the remaining qualification brackets. They are the 9th seed overall, facing off against Lotus, the 8th seed overall. And a chance to prove that, you know, had the group drawn gone a little bit differently, they could be in Lotus's position. We'll have to see if they're going to be able to make good on that promise.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see how effective they are going to try and make it work out, and if they are going to be what we expect them to be. But I kind of want to like bring up a little bit on Lotus, because I do think that for what they've been playing so far and what they showed before, certainly being one of the quote-unquote weaker weaker seeds going into playoffs, because they were the lowest in the top 8 seeds. I think they've been playing really nice tonight, and maybe it had to do with the fact that they were playing with Chrome for the Yokies and maybe changed up a little bit of the practice here and there. But when they're playing their 5 together, it looks like as long as they are like not on sync, but like actually playing together, this team really looks strong. It can have a high ceiling, especially because we have to consider always that Reptile is playing with Ping. But if he can play comfortable, maybe this team could have another look up as well.
Yeah, I mean, by and large, I agree. I do wonder, and you know, the question is going to be answered right here, right now. How can this team perform on a composition that requires, you know, some other players to show up than the ones who showed up in game number 1, right? Porsche now on the Scion, probably not going to be that big solo carry for you. Clarit's on the Nico, could still be a big playmaker, the same way he was on the Sona. Ended up with like 6 or 7 kills on that pick at the end of game number 1. Wouldn't mind that on the Nico. In fact, perhaps even better on the Nico than on the Sona. But the big thing is going to be the Porsche difference, right? I think a relatively quiet game out of Robbie, Bob, and Reptile. Robbie on the Galio, of course, you know, not going to be able to make up huge highlight reel plays, but now that Porsche isn't on his Gangplank, which has been a signature pick of his for forever, that has drawn more bans than anything else on this team throughout the season, will Lotus have those same results, or can Prosperity have another strong early game, an even better performance from Arya, given that Porsche is now on the Scion, and show up to take us to a game number 3?
It would be great if we get a game number 3. I think this is one of those games that really shouldn't be going down to the 2-0 mark, and also sending one of these two teams on a 2-0 margin towards the lower bracket would feel kind of weird, because I don't think that either of them should be going solely onto the lower bracket. But we already had surprises, like we were getting eliminated. That was something I did absolutely not expect before going into playoffs. So we're at a point in the ACL that anything can really happen to any team. Even the upsets can come from any team, really.
And I think some of that is just like you and I have to recalibrate ourselves a little bit, TDS, because my instinct is also like it's super weird for one of these teams to go out onto the lower bracket super early, but we have 4 NACL teams in this league.
It's true.
And that's traditionally not been true in, you know, spring or summer. Usually it's only fall when the league gets stacked enough for us to have these many tier 2 names. And so we kind of just got to recalibrate and shift a lot of teams down, because in a regular ACL summer split, I think these teams are probably like 5th seed, 6th seed, 4th seed, that kind of territory, but not here. It's 8th and 9th, and that is what the format has determined for them, and everybody seems to like this format, so I don't think too many are going to disagree with it. It's just been a solid expected performance, I think, from both of these teams. Prosperity even outperforming their seed, I would argue. But yeah,
I would say Prosperity more so than Lotus, probably, because like I would say at the very least we didn't have Lotus as 8th seed, I would say.
Yeah, no, we did. I mean, Lotus was 5th seed overall from the seeding committee. They were the top of Pool 2. They had a 1.9 average. In fact, had a couple of votes been cast differently, they might have been a Tier 1 team with Papa's Chonks as a Tier 2 team. Granted, I think a lot of that's because Papa's Chonks changed rosters so late in the voting process, but still.
Yep. It's still something to really see how it's going to evolve, because we may even get like a surprise upset already in the playoffs. We'll just have to wait and see. But what we're going to get to see is the second game of Lotus Prosperity, and also a little bit of a attempt that may be playing around this bush, but they're going to collapse on the back. There's 3 members coming in from the back here.
Yeah, it's now will be that early recall coming on across. Gonna take their early game trades as they come.
Oh, this could be doomed for Clarice.
Coming on through. Both parties backing on off. Kongji spots him. Probably doesn't know for sure if it's Robbie or Clarice. Not that it matters. Now both
if they
parties
just waited like 2 seconds longer, that could have been a dead Clarice.
Could have been. But that's a big ask.
Yeah.
Just hang out for 90 seconds longer, so parties will back on off.
Now starting it off, like nothing really ordinary to start it off. Both top lane, both junglers starting over on the top side, which is a bit of a difference, I would say, compared to what we were trying to see coming in from the previous games. Although in the previous game we saw Chad trying to go really early on onto the enemy jungle. It did cost him his life, but maybe this time around he's going to try and replicate that, as Arya is already suffering from this.
Definitely a rough early stage for Arya, but he should be able to recover just fine. He's got the better sustain with that Call to Meek and getting an empowered W to keep the trades in his favor. Early shove from Robbie Bob as well. Early shove across the board for Lotus, given the lane matchups that they've got for themselves. And ooh, that's a clever little dodge from Clarice, using the shift to minion to get away from Zenith Blade.
That's going to have an impact. I think that may have an impact importantly in the matchup, actually, if he can do that frequently every time there's an attempt at a trade. But apart from that, like you're mentioning, all the lanes getting pushed in, all the lanes getting controlled so far by Lotus, opens up the space a little bit for Chad to
Whoa! There's a flash in from Inflame, and he connects the E right after the flash. I can't even talk. As Inflame comes up with the kill for Kongji. Another strong start for the Prosperity bottom lane. Meanwhile, though, Chad dueling with Icelandic. He has to flash back over the wall. He is followed, and he is killed. Chad with a solo kill on the jungle invade.
Yeah, he may have gotten the red buff this time around, but it's actually Chad the one that collects the kill this time around. It's not first blood, but it's still a really good kill. I will say, though, on the bot side, huge props to how the Inflame played that. Forcing onto Clarice, trying to play around the minion form really effectively, and also just connecting the point and click CC to follow up with the Zenith Blade made it really difficult for Clarice to really be ready to respond to that. Then the follow-up from Coxie was really good, and also looks like he is going to opt into the Poco.
Oh, there's another fight breaking down the bottom lane. This time Inflame might be up a little bit far, though. Trying to escape. A deadly flourish from Reptile will connect, and he gets a good 4th shot on a Kongji as well, taking him down to below 200 HP. Kongji at great risk now. No flash, does still have the barrier. Icelandic is in the wings, but Chad is coming down as well. And Chad now aware of this. Reptile is stepping up, as is Clarice. They're jumping over the wall, looking to lock down Icelandic. There's the chain CC, and this guy's just got nowhere left to go. Trying to trade back onto Chad, but falls down so quickly. But will Kongji be able to chase him down? Lockdown from Inflame. Kongji gets one kill, but Reptile flashes after to finish him off, and he's going to claim all three. Lotus 3-4-1 in the bottom lane. A triple kill to Reptile.
3-0 start for the AD carry playing on ping right now. Reptile has to be smiling with all those kills going his way, and he's also going to get the push into the turret, so he's going to deny so many minions from Kongji. He's also going to be getting such a juicy back, and also getting the double buffs. Everything going the way of Reptile here. And it's interesting because after that first play that happened with Clarice, trying to engage once again onto Reptile, they are able to replay that off really effectively, and it's all just like a scaling effect as well from what happened in the jungle, because with no flash from Icelandic, they can just kill the Wukong really easily. Even if they follow up and kill Chad, there's no flash on Inflame, there's no flash on Kongzi either from the previous plays, so it's really easy for Reptile to just be left untouched and follow up on multiple kills really effectively.
A fantastic start for Lotus after things started getting a little bit dicey with the bot lane. That 2v2 kill for Kongji and Inflame. Things start to fall apart so quickly afterwards. Chad having himself a solid performance, keeping the pressure onto Icelandic hero. Icelandic now going to be the one on the back foot who has to recover after Chad's invade went poorly in game number 1. He gets back at it, fight in game number 2.
Yeah, this time around going to be a little bit more difficult, because one of the things that Chad at the very least had in the previous game was consistent ganking patterns or consistent ganking potentials with the Jarvan. Wukong has the potential for that, but he really needs to wait until level 6 to get max value out of that, because he has no CC, where Chad can really go to any lane, point and click W, and you can try and get a kill. That's something that it's going to be a little bit more difficult for Icelandic, and he needs to get to that level 6 mark as soon as possible.
Now, moving down towards the dragon is Robbie to group up with his bot lane and jungler, and it looks like they will be able to secure this. Icelandic is in the area, but they're just a little bit too slow on the maneuver, and Lotus will have to let that one go, or will secure that one. Prosperity lets that one go. They have, of course, switched sides. Lotus feeling good about this early game now with about a 1k gold advantage.
Yeah, it's working out really nicely for them, and it's not like they don't have tools to try and scale up pretty effectively, but their composition really is going to spike up when we reach the mid game with one item for most members. Particularly the Jhin and the Sion are really going to feel happy with that first item to play with, also the Pantheon actually, and that's a point where we'll really begin to see more action, more fighting, and more value out of some of these champions essentially.
Pushed back now in the bottom lane as gotta respect that lead built up by Reptile and Clarice. See that Dirk already completed, plus the pickaxe, offering substantially more value than what Kongji's got, who is playing the lethality Varus, by the way. So feeling rough to be behind at this stage. Although here's a trade in mid lane. Lycamaz did play the Between Worlds, thinks that he has an angle onto Robbie Bob, both very low on HP. Weirding doesn't connect, but Lycamaz is still looking for this, skips forward.
I feel like he was trying to kind of bait it so that Wukong could get an angle here to just W in flash Q, and that way you get the kill. But there's too much distance. Roybot playing it smartly for now.
Lycamaz, what a play! Flashing away from Chad's ultimate to be able to get the 1v1 trade. Now Icelandic brawling with Chad. What a block there to be able to get away from the Cyclone. Clarice is here for the backup. Icelandic fully committing to the trade. Will take down Chad, and he's got red buff and blue buff and Inflame at his back. Icelandic's gonna get out of here. Lycamaz, a hero flash, makes that a positive play for Prosperity.
Yeah, what a turnaround. That's all on Lycamaz. He's the one that defines the play, that wins the play, and makes it so that they get out of there. Oh, Wade, Reptile
getting focused onto Arya, looking for that stun. The damage is just too much, and Arya gets the shutdown. Clarice up next. Inflame going to try to take the aggro. Will they go for it after all? It is Aftershock Leona, but they decide better of it and move on away.
This has been a couple of big mistakes coming in from the side of Lotus. Giving up the shutdown onto Lycamaz, giving up a couple of kills to the Renekton as well, also getting a shutdown, and allowing now to Icelandic to try and come back into the game. without really needing to. I understand wanting to force a play there with the ultimate from Chad, but Robbie had to be ready, or Robbie had to be ready to respond to anything from the Aurora, and he's just simply not able to at the time. Really good play, really good answer, and now finally we're having a game that it's looking a little bit more contested now, though Grove's probably going to be going the way of Lotus.
Will be Lotus. Likely, yep, they get all three. Lycamaw's having a solid time in this lane, though. This is a matchup that Aurora quite enjoys being a part of. Still can't get over that flash play earlier from Lycamaw's, man. He is cooking this season. Although
Lycamaw's way
from Robbie Bob, looking to get in here. What can Lycamaw's do? Trying to find the escape, gets back over to the turret, tanking the aggro, takes a couple of shots. How much time can he buy now? He is going to be able to proxy an additional wave, at least for a time. And the kill will go over to Chad.
Nice.
Donate it to Reptile. He cleans that one up with a deadly flourish. But now 3 members waiting to dive Porsche off this teleport. I don't know they can do that. It's Cyan.
No, they can. That's exactly why they called it off. Because as soon as they saw it was Cyan, it was immediately no. That's a no. We cannot go for that. And there's no barriers either. It was only Icelandic, Renekton, and also the Leona. So there's no way they can try and pull it off. But really nice fact that Chad gives the kill to Reptile. I think giving the kill to the Jhin in this situation, not necessarily a bad choice. And also, really weird that Lycamaw's decided to stay for that long in that position, knowing where you're probably going to end up going. Even if he gets the wave, that's still something that it's not going to be extremely valuable. So all in all, for Lotus, really nice recovering play. He also got the Grops in the top side, and now looking probably towards this dragon down here on the bot side.
Nice footwork by Kongji there. Able to evade some of that damage coming on in from Claritz. And 1v2 in the lane for a short period of time. Great damage onto Claritz, actually. Chunked him down below half. Doesn't really cost him much of anything other than a little bit of mana. And now Claritz going to be forced on that recall. Prosperity's bot lane laning has been a strength for them throughout the series so far. And they're going to look to continue to lane onto it.
Yeah, trying to make it at the very least be worth it so that they can get control over here on the bot side. And like we were mentioning before, maybe try and get a little bit of control over the dragon to try and fight for it. As because of the trading that was happening all around, there is a little bit more opportunity here to maybe try and look for
Chains of Corruption. Plan of Chad. He does have the invulnerability. Kongji going to be able to flash away from the top blast. Chad just taking too much damage too fast. Kongji closes out the kill as Robbie has been sectioned away on the opposite side. Perfect solar flare from Inflame. Locks down onto Claritz. He might lose his own life for this one, but look at what they're going to get on the backside. Another slow connects. Lycamaw's trying to chase onto Reptile. Will land the weirding. Kongji, one more skill would have done it, but he just doesn't have the damage. And Reptile will be able to flee with his life.
So close, and a couple of members surviving by the skin of their teeth. Both Lycamaw's and Icelandic getting out with not that much health bars, but also for Robbie Bob actually escaping there with not that huge of a health bar there. Still, really good play that Prosperity is able to find. Really nice kills they are able to get, and even though they don't get ahead in the gold lead, it's still good enough to try and keep themselves as close as possible to the difference. Reptile, though, still being a pretty big menace, still getting really good amount of gold, and also having a good opportunity here to try and fight for the dragon, although he did blow Flash in the previous play. So he's going to be a much better seeding dog for the side of Prosperity.
So now, Lycamaw's getting the wave shoved back in, setting themselves up nicely for this dragon, I do think. But the Claritz and Chad are having the same idea. They're lurking in this bottom river. Prosperity need to get their bot lane reset to be able to get over here and really respond. Arya finding a nice trade on the top side, though. Keeping Porsche low. Flashing after him, looking for the flash stun. One more Q. Porsche has to flash and trade. And Porsche is out of there. No TP for him. He will not be joining this play for a while. Same cannot be said of Arya, who does have the TP if he wants to use it. Could also just keep up the pressure on this top side.
Yeah, there is ultimate on the Sion, so Porsche can try and get towards the top lane and try and maybe stop Arya if they want to try and force a teleport here. And it looks like teleport is going to be a choice.
Yeah, he's actually going to ultimate towards top is Porsche. No. There's going to be the pop blossom kind of wasted here. No. Here's the engage from Inflame. Locks down and one-shots Claritz, and Chad going to be in the same boat. He did successfully smite the dragon, giving a second one to Lotus, but 2-for-0 fight. Feeling pretty good for Prosperity.
Yeah, they get the 2 kills there in that position. They did lose the dragon, but overall, they get a really nice fight in that situation. Clarit's a little bit too trigger happy with that ultimate by the Nico there. He does have the flash, but I like the fact that he did not try and commit it, because he was going to fail it if he goes too far forward there. Teleport also used for Arya to try and put a stop onto the top lane play, and I don't think Robbie Bob is going to suffer much from here. It's just going to be running away. So overall, for Prosperity, really good play, really nice outcome, and even though they lost the dragon, they can still try and fight it out.
And are you solid back and forth in this game? Will end up with a slight gold lead over to Prosperity. I'm so impressed by Inflame in this game, by the way. He has found such clutch engages. Did so much for them to be able to get that early bot lane advantage that Kongji is still using to parlay into this later game as Reptile has caught up. Now a potential brawl over the Rift Herald, and this Leona must be respected.
It really is going to be one of the most important things for Prosperity this time around, because her engage is going to be pretty straightforward, but also pretty important to try and reach Reptile down in the backline. Now, one thing I quickly wanted to mention also, the Sion opting a little bit more into the damage, into the physical damage department with the Titanic Hydra, maybe taking advantage of those buffs that he did receive this patch.
Yeah. A little bit better on the split push, but does make you a little bit squishier, and Arya's been taking advantage of that with these trades on Renekton. Goes for the early Eclipse as that little bit of additional sustain and staying power, and has been using it to brawl with the Scion to pretty good success. See how long that's going to stay the case. Is Prosperity going to get this Rift Herald pretty much uncontested? Lotus making the call that this is not a fight they want to take.
Well, it's not extremely necessary for Lotus to really try and fight for it at this point in the game. They have control in the side lanes with the Rise. They have a couple of players here. They are going to try and go for a dive. There's no teleport here.
There's in between worlds thrown down. Lots of damage onto Robbie, but Chad is en route, as is Clarit's. Lycamaz once again just trying to buy time for the team. What can they get in mid lane here? Robbie going to take another rough trade, but it will not be enough for Lycamaz to clean up the kill and make it a 1-for-1. Still, that's 3 members committed bot lane for a long time. Looks like all they're really going to cash out for is, of course, the Rift Herald that they got earlier, and the fact that they're going to get waves crashed in top and mid. Not too much for it. Lotus happy with their price.
But the fact that they took so long to try and kill Lycamaz in that play really goes to show how difficult it's going to be to try and control the Aurora, and also how easy it is for them to waste time and maybe try and get something else in the future. Ideally, try and use the Herald in that way, but there is tools for them to really try and get something going if they are able to attempt it. Aurora tipping bot lane, yeah, they want to try and go for Robbie Bob here.
I think they thought they saw an angle, but clearly they did not, as Lotus will be able to successfully disengage from this. Arya committing the ultimate up here, trying to extend this trade with Porsche. I mean, you would think the Dragon was up in 10 seconds, the way that Prosperity is playing right now, but they've got 90 seconds. There's plenty of time for everybody on Lotus to recall, spend, and still show up for this Dragon fight.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that they can still do, and it's not like Arya was going to threaten the solo kill there. Even here, when he goes for it, shield's still up. Just a little bit more training. Yes, it's bothersome, and it's good to try and, like, thread Porsche in that way, but he still is a Zion. Like, he's going to clear the wave back, and nothing is going to end up mattering that much. It's a Zion at the end of the day. The other lanes, though, are where I'm looking at it more, and even though the trades for Lycamaz have been great, Robbie Bob is really far ahead in terms of CS.
Yeah, I mean, the Dominus is fine. The Dominus will be back, but
yeah,
TP, I'm a little bit more concerned about. Oh, Deadly Flourish connects on a Kongji. They need to block for this. A couple of them missing there, making life even more difficult for the Varus. Will be able to get his recall off here. Will be able to get back in time. Deadly Flourish not going to be able to interrupt him. But a dangerous, dangerous angle for a moment there as Reptile nearly picked off the isolated Kongji. The mid lane Prio going to be strong for Lotus off that.
Surprisingly here, because of that sort of play though. Oh, wait, Inflame.
Inflame connecting the Zenith Blade, maybe wishing that he hadn't though, as that clapback from Lotus hits hard. And now it's Inflame and Icelandic who are low, and now we're way closer to the Dragon. I think Prosperity just have to forfeit this. Lotus get one for free off of back-to-back good trades in mid lane.
Yeah, and that was Inflame actually forcing the trade, because he's the one that decides to engage onto Reptile. Yes, you blow up the plant. but yeah, on the back. But they can try and destroy this dragon here. There is no TP on Sion and no ulti on Sion.
Lower health bars though. Here comes Lycamos going in onto the realm warp,
Easy.
but everybody escapes. Robbie Bob ferries the team to safety, and Lotus heist complete, escape in their getaway car.
The perfect description of that play is that you can look at Arya on the side when he arrived there with teleport. He just stood there for a second, realizing that there was absolutely nothing that he could have done at that point. And such a good way of denying it. You're going to lose mid lane turret, yes, but they got the dragon, nobody died, and they are also getting a turret in the top lane. So all in all, and teleport as well from Arya. All in all, really good trade for Lotus. They get really nice value out of that, and they're one dragon closer to a soul.
Time ticking down before a major objective will be threatened by Lotus. Prosperity need to be able to get everything together to be able to challenge for it. Claritz is found by Icelandic. Will have
That's
a
fine.
blast cone to jump on out. That Otacon, it's already getting started. Prosperity need to figure out that this is happening.
They probably don't expect it to be happening without the Jin though, because okay, now they know. Yeah, now they know.
Lycamos in position to disrupt. Rest of the team is in the area, and the Otacon is stopped.
It was a nice attempt though. I like the cheekiness of that play, because Ryze Pantheon are actually deceptively strong enough to be able to try and do it, as Chad may be getting collapsed in here. Same for Robbie Bob. He has to be careful if he stays too long here.
Lycamos continuing to look for these trades. Chad forced out of his jungle, but look at Porsche on the split push. I mean, nobody's dealing with this guy. That's a TP from Robbie Bob to get himself out of here. And you know what? It buys time for Porsche. Nobody's up here responding to this guy. Arya finally going to take the recall now. TP advantage in Porsche's pockets, and he gets about half of that turret for Robbie Bob's flash, plus Reptile getting the mid outer.
Yeah, and it's going to be another turret also getting in the mid lane like you were mentioning. So all in all, for Lotus, they are just playing it off a little bit more calmly, a little bit better in the sense of how they want to try and control the map. And it's working out that much better for them, as there's no turret in the mid lane. So Reptile does need to have a little bit more care about how he wants to position, but should be fine enough with the flash as well.
Absolutely. Arya back into top lane. Now out itemized by Porsche. Off of all the farming he's been able to do, and that cheap and effective Undying Despair is such a staple for so many tanks. Still not as much resistances as a traditional Scion build would have, but Porsche has shown that that is not a problem for him. He is plenty difficult to move out of the lane regardless.
Yeah, going to be a little bit more difficult for them to try and find a lot of value in that position. And once again, just fighting here in the top lane, but Arya is not going to find the maximum value that he's looking for. He actually gets traded a little bit in some of these situations. And because of the game has slowed down to such a degree that we haven't seen that much fighting by the side of Lotus. Instead, it's more so, oh, teleport.
TP, this is Porsche joining in on the fight, and they're realm warping into the back line. Nobody actually ends up taking it, but Inflame going to be the target to be engaged on. And they take that Leona off the map. Lycamos can't clear the wall with the weirding. Will be able to join over with his skip anyway, and does manage to stay alive, but they're going to move right onto the Otacon off that one. Arya has no TP. Inflame is off the map, and I think this is going to be an Otacon secure for Lotus.
I was looking in the minimap, where the hell was Nico? It's a minion. But they are going to try and stop this. They can't though.
Top Blossom will be able to connect it onto Icelandic. Trade back onto Claritz. Can they escape on the backside? Flash over the wall to avoid the unstoppable onslaught from Porsche. Porsche going to get another flash thanks to that decimating smash, but Chad wants the kill anyway, and he will secure it. Gives it over to Reptile. Big but
Lycamos
off to one side, off to the other, and Lycamos is out of there. Back into the play, but Robbie Bob going to be able to execute him, and it's all on Kong Shi to be able to find the damage. Arya flashed into the back line, takes down Reptile. Robbie Bob next on the menu. Double shutdowns to the Renekton, and one for Kong Shi to boot. Prosperity come up with an unofficial ace.
They committed way too heavily to try and kill the Wukong and the Aurora in that position. Such a heavy commitment for absolutely no value. They weren't going to get much more than what they already got, and they died just seconds away, or 20 seconds away from the dragon spawning. Robbie Bob has no teleport. Porsche has no teleport. Reptile has to run there, so this could be a perfect chance for Prosperity to try and get control of this dragon and try and get it as soon as possible. Really big blunder by the side of Lotus, and now the game can get closer once again.
Overplaying their hand. Lotus, they need to calm down. They can afford to give up a dragon. All that it is 1 point. But they are looking to challenge, potentially change the corruption, just barely short from Kongji. And Claritz will stay alive for it. The respawns have come on through. If Prosperity want this dragon for free, they got to start it right now, and they will do so. Like Amaz waiting in on the flank. We'll have Between Worlds ready before too long. Here's the Realm Warp. The whole crew into the river. Pop Blossom connects on a 2. Claritz taking a big chunk of damage. Like Amaz going to be able to find the crew, though. Gets Between Worlds down on a Reptile. Claritz going to be the first one to fall in the fight, but Icelandic has fallen so low. And the curtain call is opened up from safety by Reptile. He claims Icelandic. He claims Inflame. But like Amaz will be able to get Robbie.
Oh, he gets his mind.
There is the soul claimed by Lotus, and they get themselves another kill in the form of Kongji to boot. It's 2 for 3, a fight win for Lotus, a dragon soul secure for Lotus, and Prosperity, they just couldn't get it fast enough. Chad will be finished off by Like Amaz, but it's a consolation prize, a massive cash out for Lotus.
Yeah, they do get the 4 dragons now in their favor. The soul now for Reptile to do even more damage than he was doing before. And it really is all in the back of Reptile at this point. 7-2, really strong with how he's playing. Really good positioning as well to try and get everything going. He actually is the one that also secures the dragon. So all in all, it just feels like Reptile is trying his hardest to try and carry out this game. 100 ping be damned. It's not working to put a sub onto the 80 carry from Lotus. And as long as they can play around him, he's going to find the value that he's looking for.
And a difficult position now for Prosperity as they lose a second permanent epic buff. Hextech Soul plus Otacon, a dangerous combination to be staring down. They've executed some of these fights well, but not well enough, and Chad wins contested smites on 2 dragons this game. That's going to be one of those things that you can't control too much of, but that feels so impactful when you're looking back at this game afterwards.
Interestingly, also, just quickly, in that previous fight, it was actually quite big, the fact that there was no Cyclone from the Wukong for that fight, because they could just walk onto the Wukong and he really had no tools to try and escape apart from the clone. So really important that the Cyclone was used in that play, and it did come from the previous play.
Yeah. Arya continuing to try to flex on Porsche just a little bit. Able to win out on some of these trades, having a solid little Renekton game here at 4-0, but the fights have been played well enough by Lotus that it has not made a difference. Icelandic deep inside enemy lines, gonna snag away the red buff. I did not see if he secured it, but he must have, because Arya is rocking one right now.
They have one. Oh, wait, engage
Flare in flame, thinks he's got an angle. He's going to get onto Chad. Meanwhile, marked on the side, Like Amaz brawling with Robbie Bob. Robbie Bob having a much better time in this trade between worlds to get over the wall. Like Amaz regroups with the squad. A double kill to Icelandic, but Robbie will be able to finish him off on the other side. If the rest of Prosperity can get out of here, though, that is a positive trade. Jungler for jungler, plus the support for a little bit of bonus income.
Yeah, really nice what they are able to get there. Reptile had ulti in that position, but maybe scared about a potential re-engage with some of the damage that they do have on some of the members, not opting into using it there. He still gets another, or they still get another kill, and the game still staying really close, even though it looked like Lotus could have the advantage at this point. The gold lead is still in favor of Prosperity, and the way that the map is right now feels that Prosperity just has a much better angle to try and walk in and play around their advantages.
Yeah, I mean, the secret gold lead is the form of these buffs for Lotus. I do think they are still significantly ahead. But if you are able to find these odd-numbered fights, if you are able to find these beautiful engages,
yep,
Prosperity have substantial team fighting power. They can get a lot of damage down in an AoE. They can give resets over to Kongji. Another solar flare to slow up Claritz. Will they pursue it any further? No. But a piercing arrow connects, and that will keep this Nico vulnerable.
Yeah, piercing arrow to the face is enough to push away the Nico in that spot. That importantly, oh, Arya getting collapsed on here.
Yeah, Robbie Bob coming in with the Realm Warp. Dominus gonna get popped early on. Arya gonna have to avoid Porsche. There's a TP coming in. Arya fights back over towards it, flashes towards it, and here comes Lycamaz. 2v2 in the bottom side. Meanwhile, Cyclone lands on top of Reptile. Icelandic, EU versus EU, and Icelandic gonna come out on top. Arya, though, trying to buy space for Lycamaz. It's a 3 versus 2, and that goes the way of Lotus. They win out by killing off Arya, but now they are all committed to the bottom. Nobody's on this Baron. Prosperity think they have an angle for it, but Kongji's lethality there is, can he present enough damage for them to be able to secure it in time?
Sion has teleport, Robbie Bob has teleport still. They could technically just try and wait it off so that they can try and force a teleport, but Chad is already here on the side. He has no flash though.
It's at half. Prosperity just can't do it fast enough. They're gonna have to peel away. Porsche is here. He has Unstoppable Onslaught. Has Icelandic Hero overexerted himself. Doesn't look like they're going to be able to pull the trigger. They will not be able to arrive to capture any members of Prosperity, but they do not secure themselves the Baron. At the end of the day, it is just the trade of kills.
They did get a huge shutdown. The shutdown from Reptile is quite important for Icelandic to get it there. Probably can be the difference between having an extra item or not for the next fight. And Baron is up, but Elder is going to be up in a minute as well, and that is a game-winning buff that you want to play for. Everyone is starting to set up around it, trying to get a little bit more vision control, a little bit more value around the area, and it's also an objective that I'm willing to trade for Baron, if I'm honest.
We'll have to see. The epic monster trade could be in the near future. Prosperity with a cute angle. Oh, and now Arya getting collapsed on again. It's a Realm Warp from Robbie Bob. 4 members of Lotus arrive to the scene. Arya has no chance. 53 seconds, no Renekton. Elder Dragon up in 20.
He does have teleport. They are pinging Baron buff here on the side of Lotus, but I think it's more so stopping the threat of it more so than starting it, because they know that there's not a good chance for Prosperity to try and fight for this Elder Dragon. Teleport in from the Sion. They are going to try and stop this Baron.
Surely they can just take this win. Lycamaz is going to try to TP out. Oh, barely gets away from the mocking shout, but will be able to do so. Now Clarice actually might be a little bit marked, throwing out the solar flare, flashing in for Zenith Blade, connecting chains of corruption, and Kongji puts Clarice in the ground. But the Elder Dragon has already spawned. It's already been started up. What else can Prosperity do? They're getting fended back by the curtain call of Reptile. Reptile's holding off 4 players with this ultimate, and that's why execute Lycamaz single-handedly. Elder buff now at their backs is gonna cause Kongji to join him. Down goes Inflame. Lotus, 3 kills, 4 members strong, making a march on the base.
It really was a gin to the face for that last fight. They found Clarice, yes, but it was Reptile that gets onto everyone, getting so much damage done on the side, not getting attacked on really effectively, plus the flash value to be able to escape, and then courting call to the faces of everyone, getting 1 kill, getting the other, and now closing out the game thanks to that. Reptile probably has to skip a little bit here, but they do have the other dragon. They are coated in damage, and they are going to be winning this game.
Plenty of damage from the Cyclone, but not enough to kill the Siege Minion. Lotus, back and forth games, early game struggles, but they are the prosperous ones today. A 2-0 win to move on to the next round. Prosperity to the lower bracket.
Yeah, we were thinking that this was going to be a 3-game series, and for a while here, it really looked like it could probably go that way with how Prosperity was trying to come around the game, but really good by Lotus, how they played around. Really nice plays they were able to find around Reptile. That really was the carry that they were looking for to have. And importantly as well, Sion really being just a mid shield, able to buy enough time for Reptile to get damage going. And also really nice plays by Robbie Bob. Even though he did have some complications in certain moments, a lot of the plays do fall down on him using the Realm Warp aggressively, finding picks on the side lane, getting enough space for them to just get enough control, and then after that, getting the kills. That was such a good way for Lotus to really just find the right angles and close out the game smartly.
Really good stuff here from the likes of Lotus. Coming away with the win today. Really solid performances from Reptile, from Porsche, and Chad pulling it back in game number 2. A little shaky on the Jarvan, but the Pantheon taking an advantage early and not letting go.
Yeah, exactly. Doing such a good job at that with how they were looking for them to do it. And at the end, now qualifying for the next round, doing such a good job at that, and exciting to see how they are going to face, because their next matchup, more than likely, is going to be Citadel, and that's going to be a really exciting matchup.
Absolutely will be. I am excited to see. I assume it will be Citadel, although Calamity won a game.
It's 1-1.
It's 1-1 over there, so nothing locked in stone yet. Gravity currently up 1-0 over Milk on the Salt Mine stream, although that series also looks like it very well might go to a game number 3. So Milk Esports winning a decisive team fight on my screen as we speak.
Also, want to talk about potential upsets quickly, by the way, as well. Cupid is 1-0 down to Deathmark Napoleon.
Deathmark Napoleon had been on a big run here towards the back half of the season after not exactly the start that they would have hoped for. And it has been a very, very strong performance from them thus far.
Yeah.
And I'm really impressed, especially with their mid jungle duo, Verdict and oh man, why am I blanking on this name? It's Verdict and Zephyrat.
Yeah, they've been a surprise that would be great to be able to see, but we'll have to wait and see if they are able to pull off the upset. Same for Calamity and Citadel. But for tonight, we did not get a quote-unquote upset Sid-wise, but Lotus getting that victory is going to be important. And also for the side of Prosperity, it's not the end of the road, right? Like, you still have one more potential game, you still have one more potential matchup to try and keep yourself alive and not have to suffer from the disaster of not qualifying. Like, the lower bracket, it still gives you the chance, and I'm sure that Prosperity will take it 100%.
Absolutely. Here, going to look to see if anybody on Lotus would like to get a little interview in here. But regardless, quite the performance from them tonight, and I think cementing themselves as clearly in that tier 2 of teams, clearly deserving of the top 8 seed, as they just absolutely slam the 9th seed here in the form of Prosperity.
Yeah, important for them to really put themselves in the spot that we were looking for, because we were talking a little bit about this at the start of the game, the start of the series, right? Where do we really put Lotus and Prosperity in terms of their potential to be not only dark horses, but teams that can fight for the top? And to really do that, it was going to be either off the back of a really commanding victory here to really set up the expectations for them, or to be able to win against one of the top dogs. And if they are able to do either of them, they certainly are going to be more talked about as potential candidates to try and go for the win. But at the very least, this cements Lotus, certainly at the very least at that top echelon, that have a better chance than other teams.
Absolutely, and it is looking like we may be able to pull Reptile for a post-match interview here. They're submitting their boy once again, throwing him to the wolves as it may be. We're going to throw it to a quick break here while we pull in a Reptile for a Winter's Side interview. See you guys after a short break. But first things first, we want to once again shout out Zen Market, your one-stop solution for buying products directly from Japan. They'll help you buy items from over 10,000 shops, as well as place bids on auctions on your behalf. They'll even consolidate all your items safely into one box and can ship internationally. They provide excellent customer service in 19 languages, which is why Zen Market is trusted by over 2 million users worldwide. Check out the panel below the stream or click the link in chat to try them out now. And if you sign up with promo code Aegis, you will get 1,000 yen of your first international shipping fee. In addition, you can type in !giveaway in the chat for your chance to win a Nintendo 64. Thank you again to Zen Market for supporting Aegis and the ACL. We will see everybody after a short break.
迅速な発送ですぐにお届けします。あ、ボクセット？
大丈夫？
でも直接来てくれたの？これって
漫画みたいだったね。
しかも今衣装着てるし、花でもあれば完璧なのに。
完璧だよ。壊れ物だから自分で届けたかったんだ。
あなたって完璧。ありがとう、ゼンマーケット。
Welcome back, everybody, to tonight's broadcast of the ACL, where we are joined by the victorious Lotus Robbie Bob on a hell of a win streak with Lotus here. I think 8-0 over the weekend, if I'm not mistaken, in the open qualifiers, into a 2-0 today. Been a really strong run lately. Congratulations, Robbie Bob.
Thank you. Thank you.
So with all of that, you guys are playing with mostly the same roster, swapping out ADs. I think you can't bring your EU Masters Reptile into the open qualifiers, so instead running with Chrome. Is there a big difference between playing with these two guys, or do you kind of just have them slot into the marksman role and say, hey, you know what, it's basically the same either way?
I think they both bring their own interesting strengths. Honestly, they're both okay. Marksman's not really that versatile role, I think, but I think that Reptile and Chrome, they're both pretty different on just not really think about the game, but just how they want to play the game. So it's we don't have that much time with either of them, but obviously because we're split. But I think it's been very interesting playing with both of them, and I think it's honestly it's a good learning experience for everybody involved, honestly, because we could take what we learned with one and translate it to another. But they've both been matching pretty well with the roster.
I think it's been noticeable considering the fact that you have won a lot of your series. Obviously, not the ones against the quote-unquote tougher teams or top teams, but it's been working out really nicely. I do want to talk about a little bit in terms of your team in general, because I'm kind of curious if between the two of them, between Chrome and Reptile, and more specifically with Reptile, is he a big voice in how you guys want to play the game, or is he just because he's suffering from ping issues, he doesn't really talk much, or he just lets everything kind of go his way and he doesn't say anything unless you guys do something wrong or something like that?
I feel like he's definitely got a big talking voice. I think both him and Chrome are actually pretty equal in their ability to talk about the game, or just translate what they want to do into comps with the team. But I think I think Reptile and I think it's been very interesting, or very fun having him on, honestly. I think with the team, I think what he does is I feel like sometimes we'll do some really troll stuff, and I feel like he's silently judging what we're doing, just silently. He doesn't express it. Sometimes he'll express it, but I think it's fair of him to do that. But no, it's been a lot of fun.
Great to hear. Great to hear. Well, I do want to also see some thoughts on your opponent here. Lycamaw has been a player who I feel has been kind of a rising star in mid lane over the last couple of OQs, made some really deep runs, had some promotion matches, been doing very well in ACL as well. And I think especially that Victor game, having a pretty good performance here tonight. Curious on your thoughts on kind of the rise of Lycamaw a little bit here, and how you think of him compared to a lot of the other tier 3 mid laners that you're so familiar with over all these years of play.
Yeah, I've known Lycamaw for a while now. I've known him, well, I haven't known him personally for years, but I played against him for definitely years and years. Goes back 4 years ago, I think. So I don't think he was playing too much comp back then. I think he was, but he was more I think he played collegiate and stuff. But I respect him a lot. I feel there's two classes of mid laners, honestly. There's the mid laners that play just standard and mages, and then you got the assassin mids, the people that are playing they can play Akali and LeBlanc. They favor those champs, and he defaults more into my style of play. I think, not saying we're similar players, but I think we have similar champ pools, and so when he locked in Victor, I was not surprised, honestly, in terms of because I feel we both kind of really like that champ. But no, I definitely respect him as a player, and I definitely I'm not surprised to see him in this into this part of the tournament. So it was the first game. I mean, first game I'm just playing Galio against Victor. I'm just there sitting waiting for a team fight. So we're just doing a bunch of nothing until mid game. But he definitely had a good performance, and I think he almost close to carrying the game, honestly.
Yeah, it was a good matchup to see you two playing it off like that. And speaking of matchups, because obviously there's no stopping here in the ACL just yet, with a lot of the rounds are still left to go. Technically speaking, and obviously we haven't seen the result yet, but next week, based on percentages, you would be going against probably Citadel, but they are currently 1-1 against Calamity. So I'm not going to make that remark unless like Calamity pulls off the biggest upset that I think a lot of people aren't expecting. But in that sense, I'm kind of curious with your take here, because we had Reptile before as well. Do you think he's the best AD carry in the ACL this split?
Reptile?
Yes, because the last time he came here, he said that he was gonna shit on the NA AD carries, and I'm kind of curious if you agree on that or not.
Yeah, I mean, he always says he wants to beat all the burger brains, so I think I believe him. I actually, if he says he's the best, I believe him, and we just gotta keep showing it,
I mean, come on, man. Represent, brother. Chrome is in this league. Chrome is on another team. You've got another team here.
He's not on our team. All right, he's not on our team.
Sure.
He's not on our ACL team. He's the best. He's the best AD carry. Well, that's what he says. He's the best AD carry in ACL, in the ACL, or in all of NA, as he maybe says. So.
All right. We'll accept that for now. Well played today. I can't say anything. You guys won 2-0, so you're gonna get to walk away with it on the day. Thank you so much for hanging out with us, Ravi. I want to give last word over to you. Anything you want to shout out? Anything you want to say before we close out for the night?
Just thank you to everybody that supports us. Thank you to Lotus. I've been part of Lotus for like a year now, and it's always been a great time being here throughout all the roster iterations and tough times. So I'm just happy to be a part of the org again. So especially for ACL and OQs. So yeah.
Love it, man. Well, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it as always. Appreciate you at home for tuning in to the broadcast tonight. It's been a party. We will be back tomorrow with another round of the ACL playoffs. Same bat time, same bat Twitch channel. It will be at 8 p.m. Eastern right here as always. So we will see you there. But until then, from myself, TDS, and Caddy, thank you all for tuning in. Shout out once again to Zen Market. That's code Aegis for 1,000 yen off your first international shipping fee. Until tomorrow, we'll see you next time.
Bro, just use Zen Market.